What's up, Doc?
No, 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 no.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages. Welcome, and super duper happy to have you here for the last day of the Cinco De Mayo Deathmatch PUBG Mobile Finals. And we have got 8 rounds of action, 8 remaining teams here. We whittled them down from 500, down to 32, down to 16, and now we are down to our final 8. CJ, how are you feeling about today?
I'm feeling really good. I was really excited to see all the games that were going on yesterday. There was a lot of close matches. I think a majority of them were like neck and neck. So I'm hoping to see that today and get some really good action.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We had tons of aggressive action and strategy implemented yesterday. Tons of close matches. We had the Dope Esports Mizexis confrontation, the Fraternity Aton confrontation, and it was just tons of close all-out warfare. And we saw some really close matches, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of great teams that are going to be coming up today as well. And so I'm really excited to get a sense of what they're going to be able to do. Masatos did fantastic. I'm going to expect that Loops Masatos game. I know that was something that was really looked forward to by a lot of people watching from yesterday in chat. So I think we're going to get a really good game there, especially.
Yeah, Masatos was a team that absolutely came in as an absolute underdog from the get-go, pretty much. They started off going off against K19, and they were already kind of estimated to lose there, but they came out not just victorious, but they dominated the situation. And then again versus eStorm to advance up against Loops today, and Loops has been on an all-out aggressive warpath, just giving that berserker game strategy, and it's been working out really well for them. But I cannot wait to see what kind of action we get today. Guys, we've got Balut Chaptan going against Blackwater. We got Loops facing off against Masatos. The Toxic Wolves facing off against the Panthers. The Fraternity Esports against Dope Esports. And then the winners facing off to see who's going to be our overall victor to take home the #1 first place prize pool. We got $6,000 in the prize pool today. 1.5K of that going to first place. CJ, what do you think about that?
I think that's a pretty good chunk of change right there for sure. I was trying to think of earlier today. I was like, well, who are my favorites? Who do I think is going to win this? And I have no idea. All right, I'm going in this with more of a blind eye, but my idea of who's going to win this is gonna be Loops. I think from a Vegas standpoint, if we're gonna do odds here, it probably will. But just from my underdog standpoint, based on what I really liked when I saw yesterday, I'm thinking Toxic Wolves. I really enjoyed their type of gameplay and how dominant they were in one of those matches that we saw. So I'm really going with Toxic Wolves here.
Yeah, I feel like if I was going to go with like the easy, just like the safe guess, I would just immediately vote Loops. But what I've seen here, and I think what everyone can pretty much agree, is that the normal structure of PUBG Mobile, the Battle Royale mode, it's top players to value life, but this is TDM where things are a much faster pace, guys. In Battle Royale, we have to play a little bit cautiously and pick your shots carefully, but in TDM, it's a little bit more forgiving thanks to that respawn. But the players still need to stay on their toes and remember that every step they take could potentially put them in the enemy's line of sight, so they need to know when to back down as well. But as you said, or as we said earlier, guys, we got Balut Chaptan facing off against Blackwater, Loops against Masatos, Toxic Wolves against the Panthers, and Fraternity Esports facing off against Dope.
Yeah, with Balut playing against Blackwater, both teams are very aggressive. We saw, when they were facing off in their respective matches, it was push, push, push. And then if they ever had some resistance, they would move back just a level and then move forward once again. So it looks like we're actually going to get right into our first match.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's see what kind of strategy they implement today. We're going to go ahead and get right into the mix as Montoya is the first one down. First point up goes to Blackwater. Coming in
nice job.
Very hot.
That was a very good long range to start. Not often can you get that off the bag, and here we go.
coming in very confidently, it seems. And it looks like Blackwater is going to be holding back in position a little bit. And it seems like Luke Chopton has a bit of the same strategy implemented as Montoya perches behind the crates. The teammates riding the same strategy as well. We got Baby Rods coming in.
Oh, that was a risky thing. He just kind of moved in front without a weapon, but it is fine as he's healing behind the wall now. BC still in a good spot, just waiting for the enemy team to come to them. Definitely a bigger push from Blackwater.
And Boy making kind of a risky lean out there, pushing out at just about half health. We see Rods here at about a quarter himself, needing to heal up, but he's going to go for it as well. We're seeing some risky lean shots here.
Great AK work there, too.
But then as we see, that warehouse is a bit of a vulnerable spot with 4 open entrances and angles to see through. You got to be covering all sides there. Montoya pushing up. Bad Bunny holding position behind the logs. And it seems to be one of the very popular corner holding positions here in TDM.
Yeah, I just liked what BC did. They pushed up with 2 to the left. They were able to take one out as they keep moving forward. Just having a duo with you is a great opportunity to get kills and also trades if necessary.
That's what I like to call the accountability buddy system. But boy, oh boy, do we have a close match as Baluk Chopton and Blackwater tie it up 9-9.
Yeah, it's super close right now, 9-10, just a 1 point difference. No one has a clear advantage. It's been switching back and forth as far as positioning. One team moves up and the other team moves up. It's constantly back and forth. No clear advantage, although we have a 2 point difference, which might be the biggest we've seen so far.
Absolutely, yeah. But that difference has been closed. That's the caster's curse. As soon as
there you
say
go.
something, it is undone by the time we finish the sentence. And Baluk taking a 1 point lead with 12 to 11 here. Montoya with 1 kill to his name. Go ahead.
Luke coming into the right with Bunny going after Malkin, it looks like, and Malkin gets taken down. Great job from Bunny.
Bunny, what is he doing? Pushing up with literally 10% health at best.
Yeah.
And immediately taken down as to be expected in a situation like that. That was a unfortunate push, but I don't think he really had a whole lot of options there. It looked like he was going to be pushed on either way, so I somewhat understand it.
Yeah, if he had someone behind him, it would have been a different story, but with no one there to help out, he tried to jump out to surprise him instead. It did bring him down to half health, but other than that, that's where the story ends.
And we are seeing this 2-2 split from Baluk Chopton working out pretty well for them. It seems that they're able to get a kind of a number advantage on members of Blackwater here and maintain that 1 point lead.
You can definitely see how much BC has stayed back right now, and Blackwater moving up so much here. It doesn't necessarily mean that Blackwater is going to be playing this one better, or BC being playing this one better, but it is. It does help when you feel like you're comfortable in your position.
Yeah, if you're Baluk Chopton and you see the aggressive pushes from Blackwater, you know, the best way to account for that is maybe to match that with a little bit more reservation here, holding things back a little bit closer to home, playing a little bit more conservative, and waiting for Blackwater to push themselves out into the open rather than you putting yourself in that vulnerable position.
I like Baluk's position here, and as they were going to wait for Blackwater to move up, there you go. Malkin, I thought, was going to do that. So maybe just a little bit of a fake out. Now they come out.
Absolutely. All right, Legal taking quite a hit, brought down to half health, and he is going to push out there.
Oh, but he gets taken down. But that was really great from BC. They were able to get 2 in a row, even though they lost 1. That'll help them with the numbers. 22 to 23, though.
Yeah, you could not ask for a closer match to start off our finals, and you can tell we have reached the finals because these are close matches. These teams are at each other's throats, neck and neck here.
Jesus Christ, it hasn't been more than 2 point difference throughout the entirety of this game. It's mostly been even or 1 point difference. That's just how good both of these teams are in respect to a lot of other squads that might not be able to hang on like this.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right here. And we got Boy holding position just as we've seen Baluk tend to do the entirety of this match. They are holding positions pretty strategically here, peeking out when they see opportunity. Oh goodness gracious, sorry about that. Boy coming around with 4 kills, trying to back up his teammate, and it looks like Baluk is going to try to gang up on Blackwater yet again, and it turns out very successfully again. Baby Rod's going in. Look at this, Baby Rod's with 14 of the team's kills.
Gee, 14? I didn't even notice that, guy.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
literally just almost half of the team's kills, putting in the work. That is a heavy backpack on his shoulders.
Now, Baluk have made a bigger lead. They were at 4 points ahead. Now it's 3. Still a good lead, especially now that we're coming toward the end here, as we're going to either have a team reach 40 points or the timer will go down to 0.
I'm predicting that we're going to reach the 40-point mark just because, you know, we see Blue already only 8 points away, Blackwater not far behind. I think they're moving at a pretty quick pace here. A lot of kills going on the field.
I hope you don't eat your words on that one, because we have seen stalemates where they have lasted quite a bit of time. But yeah, I do believe you're right. We're probably going to have this end on the points system here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Baluk Chaptan taking a very strong lead here. 6-point lead. It's the farthest gap we've seen so far today. And it looks like if they can hold on to this momentum, they might have this match in the bag. Wrapping that up.
Oh, that was really good. Really good hit on BC. Blackwater really needed that to prevent a bigger push there and to keep their deficit not too badly, although Khalid gets taken out.
And I'm seeing it again, Baluk really using a numbers game here on Blackwater, catching them at their individual vulnerable points here and just picking on them. Malkin desperately needing to heal, and he's going to hang back and do so as we speak.
Yeah, I think that is best for Blackwater right now. Oh, okay, that was a grenade on himself, right? Good, yeah. I was like, I hope that wasn't a grenade all the way from BC, because they are not allowed, but you can use it on yourself, and you would want to use it on yourself for new vest and a new helmet, along with maybe some more ammo.
Yeah, I just want to say a huge shout out to our chat. How are you doing, Six Boss, SPAISCO? How's it going? Happy to have you guys in the chat. By all means, guys, please be aware that we are doing a 3,000 UC giveaway for 5 people. All you have to do to enter is share, follow, and comment. By all means, be sure to enter in that.
Yeah, we hope you do.
Yeah, Blackwater only trailing behind by 3 points, but Baluk has been able to keep this slight several-point lead over them for at least the past few minutes here. This is going to put Blackwater at a bit more of a reserve standstill here. They know that the time is wearing thin and every kill counts here, and they only have 3 kills afforded to them before the game is over.
Yeah, I think it's fine to stay back for right now for Blackwater. They still have that 2 minutes, 20 seconds. They will need to rush it eventually if nothing changes. Probably within when we hit a 1 minute mark, that's when things will need to be more rushed.
I agree. Once we hit that 1 minute mark, you can understand why
they're pushing now.
Hanging back, yeah. Oh, narrowing it down to a 2-point gap, and once again, Baluk Chaptan able to re-establish themselves, getting a retaliation kill.
Will this be it?
Kill, and that is game. Baluk Chaptan taking round 1.
Congratulations to them. They were in the lead for the most of that game. Actually, I don't know if Blackwater ever had the lead, maybe by 1 at points, but that was definitely, I wouldn't say dominant, but closer to dominant on BC, because they were just always, for the most part, in the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. It does seem like Baluk Chaptan had a bit more control in this match. Yes. I think, you know, part of that boils down to kind of a difference in approach for Baluk Chaptan and Blackwater. It seemed Blackwater was coming out with a little bit more of that berserker strategy, kind of putting themselves in an all-out aggression standpoint here, putting themselves in some vulnerable positions, and, you know, the risky moves that could have paid off if they had worked out in their favor. It could have been very beneficial to them, but ultimately ended up putting them in a lot of 1v2 scenarios.
Yeah, you always want to work your odds. We mentioned this yesterday as well. If you're constantly putting yourself in the forefront because you think you're just that much better than them, you got to still have a teammate behind you. You cannot just ignore that part of the game, because once you do put yourself in an odds point where it's against you, you're going to most likely lose no matter how good you are, and you're going to hurt your teammates in the long run. You're going to start losing some games there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, this game, 50% of it is about confidence and momentum, but you gotta be careful not to let that confidence border on cockiness.
Right.
So that can be, when you get a little bit too far ahead of yourself, that's when you get put in check pretty quick. But I am curious to see how Blackwater is going to reestablish themselves. Is this going to be a change of strategy to combat Baluk Chaptan's more reserved approach?
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to switch anything, to be honest. I don't think they will. I think they'll just keep doing what worked last game. As far as Blackwater might want to stay more compact, not necessarily spread out too much this time. If someone gets knocked out, then maybe wait for them to come back so they can continue to have a 4-person team. But other than that, I think both teams did excellent. and I'm really excited to see what happens in 2.
Yeah, definitely a very, very close match, and I am expecting nothing but the same as we move forward into match 2. And hey, who knows, we might be seeing Blackwater come out a little bit guns a-blazing and working out more in their favor this time, and who knows, we might get ourselves a tiebreaker for our first match.
Yeah, we had a few tiebreakers in the other days, and those were really exciting. So it could be a double timed. That's not the word I was looking for, but you get the gist. I hope we get it again, all right?
Yeah, you know, sometimes words are tough, but guys, this is not the only match today that we've got going on. Coming up right after this, we've got something a lot of people have been anticipating. It's going to be Loops Esports versus Masato's, followed by Toxic Wolves versus the Panthers, followed by Fraternity Esports versus Dope. And the winners of these matches are going to be facing off to see who is going to be the overall winner. Take home that $1.6 thousand first place prize. And hey, there's nothing wrong with getting second place because that's still 1.3K.
Yeah, you know, that prize pool is huge, and all these teams are going to be super sweaty in order to get that W. All teams are going to try to do their best, obviously, and regardless of the prize pool, but they're going to be really focused on what to do. Stay on strategy, and if you need to adapt, they will definitely adapt. These are experienced teams.
You're absolutely right. Well, no time to waste. Let's get right into the thick of the action as Baluk Chaptan tries to gain yet another victory over Blackwater. We'll see if they can do it. And already it seems like Blackwater is, never mind. I'm going to say playing a bit more reserved here, and I see Baby Rods easily picking off someone putting themselves right out in the open for him. And yet, well, as we see yet again, but it actually seems like it was a retaliation kill. And here we have it, already tied up again, yet at 2-2.
Tied up, but Blackwater has a really nice spot to the left side of their map, and I wonder if any BC players try to come up on them, will they be able to push forward? We see Sad hanging back, wanting to push this, but might get chopped in the side. It looks like almost did, and that will be held.
Oh, yep, he was taken down to about half health. He's gonna need to hang back, let himself heal up, or not. Blackwater seems to be on all-out aggressive warpath, putting themselves out there with low health, and not even worried about it. It does not seem to be working out in their favor, though.
No.
It leads me to wonder why they continue to attempt it, but you know, confidence is key here, and it does seem like they don't lack the confidence.
3 coming up on 2 in favor of BC. Luca getting some really great shots. They just got 2 in a row. I don't know if they lost anyone in that. They lost one right there. And Sad was able to get one from the middle.
Baby Rod gonna advance up, 1 kill to his name this go around. Definitely a slower start for him. That's a guy who had 14 kills about 3/4 of the way through the match. So in match 1, that was pretty darn impressive. But we'll see how he works here moving forward in game 2 as Baluk Chaptan leads Blackwater 9-8.
Yeah, we're seeing Baluk again having this little lead in the beginning, constantly back and forth. You really can't really call it a lead. It's pretty even, and this is exactly what we saw just in the last match. So I'm wondering if we're going to see the same outcome, or will Blackwater have a different strat for the second half of this particular match?
Yeah, it does seem like Baluk is re-implementing the strategy that that worked out for him pretty darn well in match 1, which is going to be kind of a split-up approach, doing a kind of a 2-2 split here, and holding position at the right corners here, and waiting for Blackwater to become impatient. And it does seem like Blackwater loses their patience fairly quickly in advancing at the most vulnerable points. And as long as Blackwater is going to continue to do that, Baluk Chaptan is going to continue to hang back and let him come.
Yeah, I like what we see from Bad Bunny and his teammate right there. It's the same spot that they've been taking throughout the tournament. You know, if they can get there and have 2 people look at different directions, or the only 2 directions that can be pushed from, they're going to be set. You know, that's hard to push on, especially with no grenades being allowed. It's almost a death sentence to push it. But now they tried to push forward, which is very surprising to me. Bunny got taken down, and Khaled gets the other one. So that does keep it alive for them for Blackwater.
Legal thanking his stars, he's still alive as he is shot down to about 10% health, but he is going to be able to heal up as long as he gets back behind that crate.
Montoya taken down, even though he should have gotten a kill. Did not work in his favor, though. Yeah, Boy here peeked out just a tad, lost a little bit of health, but he seems fairly okay here. That's also another really great spot to have, especially if you're on your own. You wouldn't want to double that place up, but that is really great shots. Jump shot we just saw there, too.
Khaled making a fatal error, peeking both sides of that crate, one after the other, and just getting a little bit of damage on the first side and then finished off on the second.
Where Khaled is, he's got that high position, seeing if anyone's cutting through the middle. And there is one that's in the middle as he goes for
No
him.
one's taking the bait, but as I say it, the caster's curse is all too real. Someone comes right through it, falling for it, right into his trap.
Now Blackwater's implementing that duo by the concrete slabs here.
Yeah,
We'll see
trying
what
to
happens.
combat Baluk's 2-2 strategy with a little 2-2 split of their own. Actually, it looks like Baluk might be doing kind of every man for himself here, split up here, holding more corners, which is going to have obvious advantages and obvious disadvantages. The advantage is you can cover more angles at once, but the disadvantages is if you are starting to get bullied on, your teammates aren't quite as close there to help out.
Look at Blackwater moving up so much in this match right now. This is the most they pushed at all. And hopefully they can get some points here. And they do. They have just taken the lead by 1 point only, but still it was enough to make a difference. And we'll see if there's going to be a return on that as Blackwater needs to get their players back up from the spawn point.
Yeah, and we are tied once again at 19-19. These players could not be too much more evenly matched.
Yeah, it's mostly been Beluga's game for the most part, and here they go. They have 2 more points ahead of Blackwater, but it can switch. It can easily switch. It's just not enough point difference to say one team or the other.
Now, to me, I'd say that they're just skill-wise evenly matched here. And what it comes down to, for me, from what I'm seeing here, is a contest of patience here, where Baluk Choptan just happens to have a little bit more patience, and a part of that being because majority of the game they've been in some sort of lead, however small it was, and when you are in that lead, you kind of have a little bit of a cushion room to hang back and let your opponent try to come push themselves out, because at this point, Blackwater needs to not just tie. Tying won't do anything for them. They need to actually win this match to go to a tiebreaker. And so Baluk Choptan has a little bit of cushioning room here, and they are going to utilize that, making Blackwater pretty impatient, pushing themselves out.
Yeah, Blackwater definitely have been the more aggressive team. They definitely have pushed more than BC or Baluk's position for the most part. And it hasn't really worked out necessarily as far as giving them advantages. But I think it's just enough to switch it up where Baluk doesn't know where they're going to be coming from next, and they don't know what position they're constantly doing because they have been bearing it up. So that might actually help them here at the end, as they have now pushed up again.
Yeah, it would be pretty interesting to see Blackwater implement kind of a completely different strategy for the second half of this match. If they dialed things back and started playing things a little bit more conservative, how Baluk Choptan would respond to that. I think that would kind of ultimately end up in a bit more of a standoff. I think Baluk Choptan would like to run that clock down if necessary, but however, with Blackwater in the lead here, I withdraw my previous statement.
Yeah, I think it's so nice and refreshing to see Blackwater and a lot of these other teams to really switch it up, vary it up, so they're not foreseen and not just consistent.
I see Freydell in the chat saying, why are they using AKM in the tourney? Well, the reason being AKMs and AKMs and M4s are allowed is because they both have their obvious advantages and obvious disadvantages. The AK is going to give a lot higher of a damage, however, at the cost of recoil. So it's going to be a much more close quarter combat weapon here, whereas the M4 has a lot more stability and you can shoot it from a bit more of a distance. So they both have their obvious advantages and disadvantages. And as you can see, even though the AK implements more damage, you see a lot more players here using the M4 here. So I think it's still a fair contest.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised how more players are using the M4 over the AK. So many players nowadays can handle the recoil no matter what. And yeah, I know that you're going to want to have that M4 for more of the mid-range shots just to be extra accurate. But with these players and how good they are in BR that we normally see them in, this shouldn't be a problem for them with the AK, this distance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, one thing I am noticing, Blackwater is a notorious team. Their reputation does precede them. So I am a little bit surprised that we're not seeing more AKs used, just because, yeah, it does have a higher recoil thing. But in the tier 1 level, you often do see AKs being implemented even for distance shots sometimes. I've seen the 6X plopped on an AK, and if the player's got their gyro down, it can work. And if you can control that recoil, that sucker is a beast boy.
Well, now we've got a little bit of a holdup here.
Yeah,
that is for sure.
It does seem Blackwater is going to change up their strategy here for the second half of the match, dialing things back and letting that clock run down here as we got.
Look at BC pushing with 3 people on one side.
Well, why not? BC's got the leverage to do so. They don't even want to enter that tie.
Oh my God.
They don't have to, but they. Oh, no, I was going to say getting a little bit impatient here, but they're playing pretty calmly here as BC ties.
Oh, they tied it up. Yeah, they were able to take down one as they went back, so Malcolm couldn't get that last player to trade off evenly, which allows the total points to even up. Right now, it's at 29 up.
And as we tie 29 to 29, guys, please do remember that Blackwater cannot advance to a tiebreaker, even with tying this match with Baluch Chaptan. No, they need to absolutely win by at least 1 point if they're going to advance to a tiebreaker.
Right, if they don't, then it is automatically they do not move on.
Yeah, it will be Baluch Chaptan's game. And as they are, Blackwater taking a 2-point
Wow,
lead.
that is a huge lead in this 10 seconds left.
10 seconds. Oh my goodness. I'm holding my breath. You can hear a pin drop.
So, why is he needs to push out. He's trying to push out, but they've lost it now. They are down 3, and there goes the timer.
Well played by Blackwater. I love it. So I was saying it in a hypothetical scenario is like, what if Blackwater changed up their strategy for the second half of the game? And what would they do, and how would Baluch Chaptan respond? Well, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like I was fairly spot on there. They did end up changing their strategy, playing things a little bit more dialed back, a little bit more conservatively, playing things a little bit closer to home. And Baluch Chaptan responded by not changing up anything. They said, you know what, if your guys are going to hang back, we'll hang back and run that clock down with you. Ultimately ended up being to Baluch Chaptan's detriment, just because Blackwater was able to utilize that 3-point lead in the very last 15 seconds of the match, and that left Baluch Chaptan with very, very little time to push out an all-out aggressive, warpath there. They gave it a shot. They gave it their best shot, but Blackwater played back, held back reserved, and let those that clock and timer run down.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because, Blackwater was all over the map. Either they were pushing aggressively, they were playing passively, they were trying to figure out what could work best for them, because they did lose match number 1. They were more on their heels going into this match. They needed to figure it out. So they definitely did figure it out. It was pretty even throughout the game. And then once they had a little bit of a lead, literally by 1 point, they played back. If things changed from there, maybe if Baluch got 2 points and then they started leading it up, then I think Blackwater would have pushed again. But they had a good mentality on this. Don't just play back for the sake of playing back. Don't be aggressive just for being aggressive. Play it where you need to play it. If they're down, be aggressive. Try to get those points. Get out of there right after that. If they're ahead, play back. Wait to see what happens. If Baluch makes a big push and gets some kills, then they're going to have to switch it up again.
Yeah, I am curious to see how both teams are going to respond as we move forward into this tiebreaker. My prediction, and let me go ahead and just admit that the only predictable thing in these TDMs is that it's going to be unpredictable. But if I were to go out on a limb and say, based off of the matches that we have seen in the semifinals and up to now, I would say that we are going to be due for a much slower paced third round. Both teams very kind of dialed back and reserved and conservative, very cautiously choosing their shots. But we'll have to wait and see if I'm correct. Maybe Blackwater will continue that all-out aggression. Who knows? We'll have to find out as we enter our tiebreaker between Baluch Chaptan and Blackwater. Let's get into it.
Yeah, we have definitely seen, Blackwater or just teams in general, when they go to the third match, play it very, very safely. I hope we see Blackwater engaging hard like they did last game to get to their positions, but who knows? Maybe they'll feel more comfortable playing back.
Well, only time will tell if Blackwater is willing to dial things back. Well, actually, time will tell. Is time's already
now.
telling. Blackwater is dialing things
Yes.
back, and it's pretty obvious as you see Legal holding the corner here behind the crate, Khalid behind the boxes, and they're just going to be holding position. Which Baluk Chaptan sees no need to change up their strategy. It's worked out pretty significantly well for them thus far, so they're going to be matching that with a conservative tactic of their own, and that does leave us here with a slower paced match as we are already about 1 minute in and not a single kill has been put on the board.
Yeah, since we're totally focused on the idea of how well your gun shooting is, for lack of a better term, right there, grenades are not going to be allowed, and therefore, you can play this back type of game and kind of wait for the opponent to come out. Otherwise, you can just get grenaded in your spot pretty easily.
You're absolutely right. We do see Boy pulling a slight little rotation of positions here, moving back between the crates and then behind by the logs, kind of switching positions back and forth, but not catching any line of sight on an opponent here as Blackwater holds still, holding position, not taking any bait from Baluk Chaptan.
Yeah, I do like that position in the middle since they already took that left spot, that left crate, which is the only negative spot in the middle. So if you're in the middle of the warehouse, you got to be careful of the outskirts. But it does seem like BC has taken the left outskirt position. That would be the only negative spot. So it's a good spot to be in.
Well, I think that all comes down to like a situational thing because, in my opinion, the warehouse is a sense of false comfort. If you get what I mean. By that, I mean it's got 4 large openings. So you're vulnerable from 4 different angles. Hypothetically, though, the angle behind you should be covered by your own team, but that's not always the case. So you really, at the very minimum, have to worry about 3 sides, sometimes potentially 4, and that leaves you pretty vulnerable inside that warehouse. Yeah, you do have a little bit of compound cover, but not quite significantly enough for me to call it a safer position.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. Usually, if you're in the middle spot, like where Bad Bunny is right now, it could be really bad, especially when things moving quickly, fast. You're not sure where the players are going to be. But I do think that's not necessarily where we're at because there is a person on his left that can cover him. But, we'll see. We'll see if this Blackwater can't find an area to push. Is this going to stay 0-0 as we've gotten farther than a quarter of the match so far?
Yeah, I see Goku Boy in the chat saying camping level. Well, yeah, I think that comes down to a matter of opinion. I was saying this yesterday. When I think of camping, I think of people, laying prone in the grass or laying still in a compound while their opponent comes right around them with absolutely no idea that they have an enemy nearby. That's what I consider camping. In a battlefield as small as this TDM warehouse level, I would say that there really isn't much camping so much as holding position, strategically holding position. And when you've got $6,000 in a prize pool on the line, you can't blame either team for being hesitant about their moves. Each mistake is going to cost them in a situation like this.
Yeah, I would also totally agree with you on the idea that camping is the idea that the opponent doesn't know you're there and you're trying to surprise them by just coming out of nowhere. Here, both teams know exactly where the other players are, and they know it in return. So it's not like they're trying to surprise them by that. It's just both teams are trying to better off the other team with their reasonableness. And in this case, it's just hold back and wait for the opponent to make a mistake.
Yeah, it's the calm before the storm scenario here, but you have to understand both teams are very hesitant for good reason here. Both teams are having a battle of patience, waiting for the other team to just lose their cool and say, hey, we've got to get a kill in here, got to get a kill on the board,
right,
pushing themselves out to the open. And as we've seen time and time again in this first match, that tends to be a mistake. Baluk Chaptan knows how to capitalize on Blackwater's quick mistakes like that.
So Bad Bunny was doing a little bit of the worm there as he is also waiting for the action to happen. Yeah, we are about to hit that halftime show. Maybe we'll have a famous singer come along. I don't know.
Yeah. We are going to be doing some special PUBG Mobile trivia to pass the time.
Do you remember who won match number 1 of this one?
In what season did PUBG Mobile make it impossible to put an 8X on an AK-47? The winner.
No, that really goes
Pat
back
on
in
the
the
back
day.
from Red Eyes. All right. Now, this is getting a bit stale here as we have passed the halfway mark. 5 minutes have gone by without a single kill on the board. And keep in mind, guys, that if these players both tie up with 0-0, I'm not sure how we resolve a situation like that, as it would technically count as a win for both of them. I'm not sure what we would do in a scenario like that. Perhaps a best tiebreaker of 1st to 10. Which, in a case like this, if they're going to hold the standoff like that, might not amount to much.
Well, it's probably not going to. And so, what both teams are seeing is, will the other team just try to make something happen? And they're ready for that. Obviously, one of these teams will have to make something happen before the timer runs out. I don't think either team really wants this to go 0-0. I think one will try to get that 1-0 lead and then try to bail out if possible. So it's just a matter of who's going to do it. Maybe they do it at the same exact time and then the action just kind of explodes. But I doubt we're going to get a 0-0 finish.
Well, I think you are right about that. I think at least when you say that the teams are going to push out and try to get that 1 kill lead and then dial things back, I think at a pace this kind of slow, a 1 point lead is a lot more significant than previously thought. I think after you see that 1 point lead, you're going to see the team with the lead dial things back, hold things back closer to home, and expect mistakes to come from the losing team.
Yeah, but Luke, this is definitely to me as we're going to get into the later ends of this game. But Luke, we're playing like this for the most part because you always have Blackwater pushing up, making it a more of a fight by them making the first move up. So this is kind of in the realm of what BC wants to do. Blackwater, whenever we saw this from Blackwater, it really did not work out best for them. But I mean, as we always mention with TDMs, anything is really possible. You know, this might not be your best strategy, but if it really only has to work once, and so we might see that happen here.
Well, you are right. I think I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. Oh, first shots that we've seen so far, but I will go ahead and agree with that. I think, you know, once we see that 1 point lead, I think we are going to see people dial things back considerably, and I think it's going to be a little battle of momentum there. But so far, neither team has that momentum.
No, none of them have momentum at all. I mean, we're pretty much at a standstill.
Yeah, as we reach our 2 minute mark, something is going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. All right, this is the final calm before the storm scenario, if there ever was one. Khaled holding dead still. Montoya doing the exact same on the other side.
Yeah, just to reiterate to everyone, each team has now won one match. So this will be the take it all situation. And whoever wins this goes to the next round.
Asterisk says, bro, ain't no way that's Baluk chopped on. Well, I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it is. If not,
Pretty sure.
If not, then I should probably hang up my caster's cap because that's a pretty big mistake to be making. They're one of the best Brazilian teams, is why they aren't being aggressive, says Adstertic. Well, yeah, this is a contest of some of the best here. Keep in mind, all these teams have whittled their way down to the top 8. Top 8 from 5. We started off with 500 teams, CJ. 500
Wow.
teams that we whittled down for 32 teams to the semifinals. Imagine that kind of drop. From 32 teams, we narrowed it down to 16 teams. 16 teams down to our final 8.
It looks like Blue Chuck Tom is moving up to one side. They have Bad Bunny, who's in the middle still, but there's 3 players moving, or at least holding that one side. No one's on the other end.
We just passed the 30-second mark with literally only 20 seconds remaining on the clock. Something has got to happen. Something has got to happen soon. One of these teams is going to have to push up if they want to figure this out. Like, otherwise, I'm not sure.
Pushing up.
Yep, and here we go. Baluk is making a move for it. Blackwater holding back with more patience.
They get one. They got 2.
securing 2 kills.
And they knew exactly what the gameplay was.
And that is game. And oh my goodness, for a brief second, I thought there might have been a chance that Blackwater was on the verge of a comeback as Malkin scored that 1 point with literally 1 second left on the clock. But unfortunately for them, Baluk Choptan's aggression paid off.
Yeah, they had all three, or not all, but they had all 3 players on one side push up to get those 2 kills, and then immediately did a U-turn to get in the exact same hidden spot. I think it was Bad Bunny who got taken down in the middle, but that was it. I mean, the rest of the team was safe, and they couldn't afford to lose one.
You know, I think Baluk Choptan pushed at the right time, and I think that they pushed in the right way. And by that, I mean they did push up with at least 3 members. I'm not sure if it was 3 or 4, but they did push up as a fairly singular unit there. And just from there was a bully tactic, just outmanning their opponent, outnumbering their opponent, and outgunning their opponent.
And that's what I've been saying, even in yesterday's event. I was really hoping to see more of a 3-player team going into one side. So even if they have 2 people there ready to go, they're probably not going to win that. They can even have the better position, but numbers, I think, matter a lot more than position, especially with a small TDM area where you're bound to get them out eventually. So I hope we see more 3-player teams pushing in one direction, and maybe have that one other player either playing back, playing the support role, or as we saw from Bad Bunny, playing the middle one in case someone tried to cut around them and try to flank them. Bad Bunny would be there. So, who knows? We'll see that maybe in the next few matches as we're getting into some good teams.
Yeah, I think Baluk Choptan is going to have to maybe change up their tactics a little bit as we move forward into the finals. I think, this standoff tactic is going to be expected from them. At this point, it's almost predictable from them. And, depending on who they face off with, it's either going to be Loops or Masatos. But if it is going to be Loops, perhaps a little bit more reservation is the right way, because you can count on Loops pushing up. Loops is going to be the aggressor in that scenario. So that could work out in Baluk Choptan's favor. But keep in mind, this is where Loop thrives. The Loops, they are the berserkers of this tournament. And when I say berserkers, I mean they coming out guns ablaze and not even so much worried about protecting themselves, more so about, before I go down, I'm going to take down a couple of you with me.
Yeah, Fake was writing earlier saying the match is about to end. God level skill campers future. I don't know what you're saying because I don't speak Spanish, but as far as I know, as far as chat goes, you can use whatever language. Just make sure it's the non-toxic situation. I think we all understand that, and we want to be good people. But yes, great. Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Zahn saying they aren't a Brazilian team, Lamau. They are LATAM team. Asterisk says, oh yeah, my bad. Forgot LATAM exists. Both teams are LATAM. BC is second best LATAM team. Blink says, go BC. And they did absolutely win that. Abdel saying BC played it smart.
You know what? You can't really argue with Abdel on there. BC did play it smart. They did exercise it pretty intelligently. They held positioning for almost the entirety of the 3 matches. But when the clock ran out, they knew that they had just a brief number of moments to make a move happen, and they did make it happen. Granted, I was expecting Blackwater to be the ones losing patience, but guys, it is time to get into it. One of my most anticipated matches of the night, or of the day, depending on where you are. It's going to be Loops Esports facing off against Masatos. Loops is a very known team. Their reputation precedes them, to say the least. Masatos coming in as an underdog here, surprising everyone with how well they performed. Just tip-top level, dominating both their previous matches.
But if I remember correctly, I remember people saying that Masatos was the winner of the Brazil PMPL. So, that is something not to shrug off. They might be an underdog here with Loops being an excellent team, but I don't know if there's going to be much of a skill difference here.
Oh, well, you're absolutely right. It doesn't seem like these two are too distantly matched here. They're pretty equal here at each other's throats. And as I say that, Masato's taking a 2-point lead over Loops. And it does seem like Masatos is going to be holding things back, holding position, accounting for Loops' usual aggression. But Loops, as we see from Chief, holding back in positions as well.
Yeah, Masato's have been staying back. I mean, we've only gotten to the beginning, so there wasn't really an ability for them to push, as Loops loves to do that. So Loops said, yes, thank you, we'll take the forefront, but unfortunately does not seem to be helping them either. So will Loops try to dial it back, as well as they have start off with an early losing streak a bit.
Well, it does seem like Loops is figuring this out pretty early on. It does seem like they are playing a bit more reserved than what we've seen from them previously, which is going to be kind of interesting to see moving forward how this is going to go down. Because right now, as it is right now, Masato's have a 5-point lead over Loops, just dominating the situation. Scratch that. Oh, nope, still back to 5 points.
Yep. It has been definitely Masatos's big lead. They're waiting for Loops to come out. You see those shots there from Frey just right there. I mean, he took a big chunk of health out, and I think they managed to get that kill to make it to 9. So they're allowing Loops to try to get in position, but they're not actually letting them do that. They're just going to shoot from a distance, and that worked out so far here. And so the way Loops loves to play, I don't know if that's going to work in the long run here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Loops is a team that thrives up when they are furthest in your zone.
Yeah.
Pushing all the way up, holding positions at both corners. That's where
Great shot there, though.
finds their momentum. And Masato's knows it. That's why they're leaving that bait out in the open, leaving that open space for Loops to advance. And Loops seems to be taking the bait pretty consistently here.
Yeah, Masato's, they are starting to lose a little bit of their lead now. It's a 3-point difference. But they can afford that. They certainly can at this point, as we're still very early. No one has a huge difference as far as momentum right now, but I think Loops is starting to feel like they aren't doing everything they're able to do normally. So that, I don't know if that's going to be something that they're going to have to think about going forward here. They're not used to it, I imagine, because they are such a good team that they probably never felt this before.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think Loops has definitely felt the pressure before. They compete at such a high level. Ooh, Hypercedo going for a drop shot there, ultimately going up against 2 members of Loops and being outnumbered there. But I believe he took one with him before going down himself.
Toiko is in a fantastic spot, but he can't hold it. That's very difficult to take someone out that's peeking from that direction. So really well done for Masatos to stop that before it continues.
And, you know, credit to where credit is due. Masato's, you know, really maintaining at least a 3 to 4 point lead for the majority of this match.
Oh, great move from Hypercedo.
But see, that's what I'm talking about with the warehouse being such a vulnerable point with that many openings, with that large of openings too, those wide openings, you are left vulnerable from 4 different angles. When you are inside of it, but even from the other side of the map, you can be shot directly through those entrances.
Looks like they are Masato's playing back again, waiting for Loops to push forward. Loops is still pushing forward. I mean, they have one guy with Chief on the right side, and he's moved up a lot. It looks like their teammates for Loops are trying to help out Chief. And Chief now makes his own move and is able to help get the kill. Gets another one too. Can he go for Frey? He'll get a third.
Loops
Chief going crazy.
Loops Chief absolutely finding some momentum, building up some confidence as they take the only a 1-point deficit to Masato's. This is the closest it's been.
Yeah, that was a turning point for sure to try to even things out. Chief cutting around the bend. Can he get another one? So close to it, but I don't know if he's going to get that yet. Oh, he gets shot from the side? Yes, he is taken out.
Yep, and the Loops ties it up, 22 to 22. And as soon as I say it, Masato says, "Hold up, we'll still keep that lead if you don't mind."
Yeah, Masato's. I mean, yes, they are starting to lose this lead, but they still have it just a little bit. And so that's how far down Loops kind of was. Even with all those amazing plays, you still want to work your odds with numbers, and that's what Masato's is focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what is especially interesting too is that what seems to be the points that are working out for Loops, aside from Chief going out on his berserker killing sprees, is when Loops pushes up as a 2-2 split. That seems to be where they kind of thrive up against the Masatos particularly. That seems to be where they're getting the majority of their kills and tying things up. So as long as they can, you know, remember to have their accountability buddy, they might have a real shot at this. But Loops is the aggressor here. There's just no question about his demeanor. Low health, still taking him out with only 1/3 of his health. He gets it, acquiring his 7th kill.
beautiful. And Dementor did have an accountability buddy, but he was taken down a little bit earlier in that fight, so he was kind of stuck in a 1v2, still got it done.
But let's just give more credit to Masatos for definitely not losing their cool, keeping their calm, holding things back, holding things at a reserved point, and just taking off the most choice shots, you know, and that's why they are able to maintain this lead. They're putting themselves in a position where even if they are having one of the members taken down by a Loops member, that they have a member to account for that and
Loops
get a
is
little
pushing up.
kill.
I really like what Loops is doing right now. They are trying to overrun Masatos, even though they don't have the lead yet. Oh no, Colin takes him out.
Was that say his 13th kill? I must have misread that. It's either said his 13th or his 10th, but either way, those are some pretty big numbers.
Yeah, throughout the event, we saw Masatos pretty even. Everyone had pretty similar kill counts. No one was like the main killer of the team. So you can just see how well they play together, very cohesively.
Yeah, they definitely built up their synergy and practiced together. And they know each other's strengths and weaknesses and know how to utilize them perfectly. All right, well, we are entering the final portion of this match. With only 5 points to go for Masatos, can Loops manage to come back from this?
Hypercito might be getting pushed soon as 3 players from Loops have his name in front of them. And here we go. Yep, Hypercito gets taken down, but Colin was able to get one back. He got around them. He got behind them. He's able to shoot them down in the back.
As Masatos is just furthering that gap. I see Fake writing in the chat, Loops might make the points back. Well, if they're going to do so, they need to do so now and without making a single mistake here. Well, they have one mistake afforded to them, but a second mistake will be the end of the game.
So this is a great job from Colin. Colin has been doing absolutely amazing. He has 15 of his team's kills, pretty much a little less than half, but there you go. Finished it up. Colin did have the most, Frey with the second most with 13 kills.
Absolutely phenomenal performance there by Masatos. In all honesty, I would say in comparison to Baluk Chop Tan, Masatos had a bit more balance of position holding and when to push. I believe that they didn't just necessarily hold things back quite as much as Baluk Chop Tan. I think it might have even looked that they did just because of how much Loops was eager to push them.
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
Yeah, in most cases, Loops, you know, that type of gameplay where you just push until you get to not necessarily all the way to their spawn, right? Because they have to get back into the game, but enough where once they are at the, I don't know what that called, the awning on the right side of it, and once they get to a certain point, then it's just so much easier to play from there. But Loops was never really able to get there until maybe in the end or middle, sometime around there. And they were able to get some kills at that point, but it was always at a detriment because they lost players along the way to get there. And so when they tried to continue to push up to get to those spots, they were getting gunned down until it finally worked. They got there, they were able to get some kills, but it was already, the damage was done.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think what Masatos did that was so beneficial to them is they positioned themselves in such a way that whenever a Loops member was taking one of their members down, they had a teammate, and as I like to call it, the accountability buddy, who was there to retaliate on that weakened member who got their teammate. And because of that, for every kill that they suffer, they can make it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see if Loops can change the tides here as we move forward to match 2. Masatos versus Loops Esports. Let's get into it.
All right, let us know, guys. Are you guys rooting for Loops or Masatos? Which one do you have winning this match?
Zahn says, the last year Loops team disbanded and went to Alpha 7 and influenced Rage INCO. Kevin Summer says Loops weren't prepared for the heat. Well, I think that you can assume that Loops is going to expect the heat from Masatos this time around. We'll see how they react accordingly.
Yeah, Masatos did have a good start, as Fake mentioned. And so far, it looks like Masatos has the first kill, similar to the last match.
Well, the momentum and the confidence belongs to the Masatos coming into round 2. That is unquestionable. Performing just almost to the T by the book in round 1, and I think that that's their plan for round 2, because as we said yesterday, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's really on, the pressure is really riding on Loops. It's going to have to be either a change of strategy from Loops, or it's going to have to be aggression a little bit more conservatively dialed.
Yeah, I mean, Loops is, as we constantly mentioned in match number 1, 2, Loops loves to be the aggressor, and Masatos is saying, you go ahead, be that aggressor team. We'll be ready for you when you get here. And that's Masatos is working that strategy perfectly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we see Darkido holding position here. 0 kills to his name, but remaining very calm and patient here. And he's going to go push right out in the open.
Nice.
Mid-spray, and it was a perfect time as he does not take a single bullet worth of damage and secures his first kill, almost getting the second, but assisting his teammate for the second, and even almost securing a third.
Colin has his hand in the cookie jar all around this map. I mean, he just supported 2 of his teammates who are on completely different sides. It's a great thing what Colin is able to accomplish. Some really good gunplay there. And he also has a hidden spot, more or less, with the crates at his favor. So as long as Loops continues to push, Colin will have a great angle on them.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say Colin definitely poured some Red Bull into his cup of Wheaties today, and he came bringing his A game, absolutely dominating match 1 with, what was it, 15 kills?
Yeah, it was 15, and his teammate even had 13, one of the teammates.
Oh, man. Talk about, I mean, honestly, that's not even to say that he was heavy backpacking his teammates. It just means that he plays more of an aggressor role, and some of his teammates play more of the support role. And
yeah,
that absolutely can work out to their benefit.
One of the Loops players, I think, wanted to jump and instead went into hurdle mode, which is, again, always one of the worst things you can do. You never want to have that feeling where you're just stuck in trying to get up something when you didn't want to.
Ooh, and Frey just quickly picked off from the side as Loops gets their 6th kill with only half the kills of Masatos. They are going to have to figure something out quick.
Nice job.
Like they might be on the momentum of doing so.
Yeah, they had a pretty big lead. I think it was like a 6-point lead at one point, but now it's a 4-point lead. Loops is trying to make it back. And they're constantly been working from behind. We'll see if they can try to eventually get to the lead, but so far it has not been the case.
Yeah, it does seem like you are correct here. Masato's really not having to change up much here. They are kind of dominating the majority of this match too, making sure they maintain that lead here. And it goes back to what I said during the intermission. They're positioning themselves in such a way where they can account for their fallen teammates. Is when one of their teammates goes down, they have someone to retaliate. And so for every kill that they take, they are going to retaliate and get one in their favor. That's why when you see Loops secure that 12, you might see that 16-point mark go off on the red side. And as I say that, watch it be the one time that it does not happen, of course. But it does seem to be the general trend here from Masatos.
Yeah, Masatos made a bit of a mistake. One guy tried to push forward, which is very unlike them, on his own. And Loops definitely pounced on that, got the kill, and moved to the awning. So they're waiting for Masatos to kind of come around. Masatos is not budging, though. They are not only staying back, but to one side. And Hypercito gets killed, but Cardozo gets taken down too.
That's the point that I was just trying to emphasize, is exactly case in point. As soon as the Loops member got a takedown, he was immediately retaliated upon. For every kill Loops puts up, Masatos has one to return with.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they probably are heavily communicating right now. They are pretty much letting the team know, hey, I'm down, play back, and let's make sure we're all supporting each other. If you guys notice people that are pushing, let us know on which side, and we'll start focusing on that direction. Masatos doesn't really have to worry about the verticalness because they aren't pushing.
Well, in a brief few moments, talk about a change of tide. Loops coming out and just coming back from a 3-point deficit to now a 4-point lead. They have put up 7 points in about the past 35-40 seconds.
Yeah, that was very impressive. This is definitely the first time they have a lead. And can they hold it? I mean, Masatos now has to change up their strategy for sure. Loops is not going to push forward. They're going to do exactly what Masatos did in the beginning of this round and even throughout the first match. They're going to play back and wait for Masatos to make the mistakes because Loops can afford it now.
Absolutely. With that 4-point cushion, all the pressure is really riding on Masatos. Keep in mind, Masatos have a cushion of their own. And that cushion being that even if they lose this match, it's going to go to a tiebreaker. So that might explain Masatos' hesitancy a little bit more. But keep in mind, we also still have 4.5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, we definitely have the time for Masatos to kind of really make sure they know what they're doing before they make a decision here. And wow, Colin just crosses an open field, an open territory, and he is not going to get pushed. Loops is really playing this one conservatively, which is very unlike them.
It's unlike them, but it seems to be the medicine that they needed to dial things back a little bit, change up their tactics, keep Masatos on their toes a bit. Now, this does mean that we are very likely going to be in, like what we saw in match one, our first match between Balut Chapton and Blackwater, a bit more of a standoff, as we saw in their match 3, but it's in this case, it's happening in match 2 here. And the reason being, because Loops does have that little bit of cushioning on their side, so they have a bit more patience to hold things back.
Oh. So Frey did the same exact thing Colin did to get to the awning. And again, without grenades, it's fine to do because you cannot take them out without seeing them. You have to have a line of sight at least. So now they push out. Loops, I think, might have lost one, but they were able to give one back too. So our Cardozen low on health, but I guess Frey didn't want to take the chance of pushing with them to get Cardozen, given where there's other players around.
And now it seems Loops are the members with the accountability here, ready to account for one of them being taken down with a retaliation kill of their own.
Yeah, good job from Loops. I mean, they're not biting on some of these pushes. They're able to get some damage on them, but if they don't get the kill, they're not going to try to continue it up.
Oh boy, Colin getting a little bit impatient there and pushing up on a 1v2 scenario, and it did not work out for him. Frey making the same decision and getting one kill, going for a drop shot, and it fares out just well for him. Hypercedo down to about 130.
Oh, Toiko holding the line down.
Oh man.
Yeah, great job from Toiko. That was a huge move. If Toiko ever gets taken out, that is very problematic. That position when you're playing back is one of the most pivotal ones because you help on both sides. And so you got to be careful. Once we notice Toiko out, it might lead to a domino effect.
And something that's kind of important to note, as I believe Kevin Summers mentions in chat, Loops members are utilizing the AK here, whereas the majority of Masatos members are utilizing the M4. So while the Loops members do have the majority of the damage, it does leave the Masatos with the higher probability of getting some distance kills.
I don't know if they were using that in the very beginning. Maybe they were, but it definitely makes sense in this. Oh, 2 Loop Slayers out. Darkido comes in strong.
Now, this would be the time to advance. With 2 of their members down, you would think that that would be the time to start bullying the remaining 2.
They just felt like they got enough and they backed off. I don't know if they lost a lot of health there. But going back to my last point with the AKM, Loops is only focused right now on short range. They're not even thinking of shooting mid-range or long range, given if there is one here. So AK makes the most sense. So it's just going to be pivoting around obstacles, trying to get those drop shots or anything like that with the AK. As far as Masito, maybe they want to use the M4 because they expect maybe that Loops will peak sometimes, and there's a peak actually right there. Cardozen coming in strong with some few shots. Frey gets taken down. Colin gets taken down. Great work. They got around him.
And Loops now starting to dominate the situation with a lead over Masatos. We could very well be due for a tiebreaker for match 2 as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to get to that point. We have less than a minute now. 33-26. It could switch if Loops doesn't stay on their A game. That could possibly be it, but I think they will. I think they will stay in their A game.
Loops has definitely found their momentum here.
Yeah, they would really have to mess this up with less than a minute to go.
Yeah, Masatos holding back here is a mistake. Masatos have no choice but to be all out aggressive if they want even a shot of coming back from this, as they trail behind by 9 points.
Yeah, they might as well just to see, because obviously if you do nothing with now 30 seconds left, you're definitely not going to win. So you have to.
Knows it. Yeah, Colin knows it. He is pushing, but it is not going to be enough if he's on his own. And it does seem that some of the other members might be holding back. And Colin does push up vulnerably, and that is going to be the 10th point for Loops.
Well, Masasito hasn't really been a big pushing team against Loops. They have been in the past with yesterday's matches, but with Loops, they haven't quite done that yet successfully, and it really showed there.
Well, this ended up being a little bit more of the Loops esports that we're used to seeing. And realistically, it never stopped being the Loops esports that we're used to seeing. I mean, they came out match 1 guns a-blazing, all right? They came out with that Berserker strat, and It's exactly what Masato's was
Yeah.
expecting. They planned for that all-out aggression, and they accounted for it. They probably studied Loops's semifinals match and accounted for it. But what Loops did is they saw where they messed up. They saw where they pushed a little too aggressively, and so for the first half of match 2, it was all about dialing things back, and it was a battle of patience between them and Masato's. Now, Colin, riding as much momentum as he was, riding, he was thirsty for it. So he felt pretty confident pushing himself out into those open, vulnerable spots. But with Loops Esports hanging back and playing things more reserved, they were just sitting there ready and waiting to pick him off. And that's why they were able to start slowly accruing that lead. And come in game, it was all about confidence and momentum. And they rode that momentum as they further that gap between themselves and Masato's.
Yeah, speaking of momentum, I mean, Loops made a big push mid-game where they started to get the lead. The first time they started to get the lead, and automatically, once they had, I think it was like 3-point lead, they backed off, which is very unlike Loops, but they know the situation that they're in. If they kept putting on that pressure, eventually the opponent team would push with fresh health, fresh armor, and get those kills right in front of their eyes. But instead they pushed back, giving them some time to heal up and then get into that defensive mode that Masato's has been doing pretty much throughout the game. And that's what was the pivoting point for me in this match, was Loops making the decision from being aggressive to being passive.
Yeah, absolutely. That little 4-point lead, as minimal as it seems, that 4-point lead is all you really need to instill a little bit of pressure onto the Masatos. Because if Masatos wanted to avoid a tiebreaker, they couldn't tie with Loops. They had to come out and beat them, and they had very little time to do so. And I think realistically, the error falls on Masatos this game because they held on to that conservative approach way too long. I think when it got to around the 2-minute mark, that's when we should have started seeing a little bit more of an aggressive Masatos, because the time was really diminishing for them to come back. And as that point the point difference gap between themselves and Loops, it really came down to, hey, if we want any shot of this, there's 9 points to tie us up. We need 9 points to tie us up and 10 points to take the lead. The only way that's going to happen is if we come out guns a-blazing.
Yeah, and that's just not something that Masato's was used to in these rounds. Again, they've been playing back throughout the game. They never really pushed forward to the middle even. Sometimes they did, but not very often. And they were very good when they played back. It's just whenever that line of defense broke and Loops took the lead just once, that's all it was required. So you really do need to learn how to, and they definitely know how. It's just that they weren't used to it in this round, given that they did so well in match number 1. But they will need to adapt whenever things like that happen, where they be aggressive and learn to play in a different way.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you know what's going to be interesting is if Masato's advance and face off against Baluk Chaptan, what kind of match are we going to be seeing? Could it be basically like the Baluk Chaptan Blackwater match 3? You know, it could very well be one of those battles of holding position. Now that would be a slow-paced match, and so I realistically think if Masato's do advance in this situation, they're going to need to be prepared to capitalize on Blue Chaptan's passiveness, or vice versa.
We were just talking about this, but Loops took an early lead and then immediately backed off to their defensive position. That's what they're going to do. Immediately, once they have a lead, they back up. If they start losing the lead, they're going to go forward again. That's literally their strategy, their adaptive strategy right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All the pressure is on both these teams right now. But with Loops establishing even a 3-point lead, that small lead is significant enough at a tiebreaker match for them to really put the pressure on the Masatos. And Masatos are definitely feeling it. Frey being a little bit more aggressive than what we're used to seeing as he pushes out somewhat into the open, not actually taking a whole lot of gunfire in the process. As I say that, he is shot down to just above half health, but he is going to be able to heal up just fine.
Yeah, I really am starting to notice more and more Masatos' inability to push effectively. We just saw them lose some players there. They were able to trade them out because it's still a 3-point lead for Loops, but Masatos needs to find a more effective, aggressive type gameplay that we just have not seen so far from them.
Well, the problem with that more effective, aggressive gameplay is that it's exactly what Loops is waiting for, it seems.
Yeah.
Loops is now holding back, playing the Masato strategy against the Masatos. And the factor is the just fact of the matter is that they can do it with that 4-point lead. You know, Masatos knows that the clock is diminishing, but currently they have plenty of time to try to slowly make up those points. But if we get down to that 2-minute mark and they still trail behind by that 4 or 5 point deficit, we are going to see a different Masatos hopefully. Because if match 2 taught them anything at all, it's that all-around passiveness is not going to work in every situation.
No, and Loops, I think, learned this as well. They kind of learned it a little bit the hard way, as even if Loops was ever winning in match number 1, they were still pushing, because they thought Masatos, you know, if we're winning and we're pushing and that's working, let's just continue that. But it didn't work out in the long run. So they started thinking, we got to change it up. And they did, and it's working out nicely that they're changing it up.
I see Adsterik talking in chat saying, do the casters know that their voices speak 2 seconds before their mouths do? Yeah, we absolutely do know. It took us a long time to learn how to do that. A lot of practice.
It was hard.
Years and years of practice in ventriloquist school. And we finally got it to the point where our voices and our mouths move slower than our voices.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard to overcome the mouth movement with, you know, the sound, but, you know, we did it pretty well, I think. I think we're pulling it off.
I was inspired by watching old Godzilla movies. All right. Anyways, Loops really dominating the situation here with that 6-point lead over Masatos, really holding on to that momentum from the second match, and it is paying off beautifully to their benefit. And why not continue more of the same? Why not hold back in that position? Because Masatos are falling for the trap.
Nice. Wow, Loops is ruthless right now. They are playing Masatos very well. There's been so many times where Masatos is pushing up. They have one person a little exposed. Toiko is not going to net, and it was Toiko for the most part on that left side. He wasn't going to shoot necessarily because he knew that someone was supporting him. And the moment that support left them, he took him out. So he was very smart in that type of gameplay. Some people would just kind of shoot and ask questions later, but he waited a little bit longer to have that advantage even better.
Yeah, honestly, Loops is playing this perfectly, and it really seems that this is the Loops that we were expecting to see, you know. This is the Loops that people have come to know and love, just the all-out berserkers, and it is just playing off full in this match, and it really seems like they've got Masatos on a tilt here. I
really like what Loops is doing. They are taking the weakness of Masatos and hammering that down hard. They're saying Masatos isn't really great being aggressive against us. Let's just completely play defensive as they have to play aggressive, right? If Loops was playing aggressive, Masatos can play back. That's their sweet spot. That's what Masatos wants to do. They just can't do it now because they don't have the lead.
Yeah, that luxury is not afforded to him as Loops hangs back.
Masatos broke through. Masatos has broke enemy lines. They needed this. Let's see if they can get some kills here as they do. Colin coming up big.
But Loops still doubles the points of Masatos.
Yeah, now it's more chaotic here. No one has positions anymore. It is just who can push the other one out of here.
But in general, for Loops, the way they're playing this match, it's almost like a poker match. You know, when you are the big stack at the table, that's when it comes time to bully and pick on the other people while they're down. And that's exactly what Loops is doing here, and just playing the tilt that Masatos is on perfectly. They have got their confidence diminished, and Masatos is playing more, you know, impulsively, it seems. A little bit more impulsively. You can even see Frey pulling quick rotations, pushing himself out into the open. Hypercedo pushing himself out into the open, all at individual points. Colin doing so, but Colin's been doing so the entirety. Colin just seems to be their star killer here. So I'm not going to say it so much applies to him. He's been doing it the entire match, but it seems his teammates are playing a little bit more impulsively as well.
Yeah, Masatos just had a string of really great kills as they were able to push up and break the line of defense from Loops. But then as the spawns were coming back into play, and with Masatos' players needing to heal up after you got a few kills, they started to lose some as well. So it kind of kept the difference in points at the same thing. And Masatos, what they really need to do is kind of what you were mentioning, is once you start losing your players, you got to back up. You got to, you know, retreat, and a tactical retreat, and then come back forward again once you're fully healed up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And see, a case in point, Darkido peeking himself out in the open at below half health. Frey putting himself out in the open and being quickly picked off as he left himself vulnerable to 2 different lines of sight from Loop's Esports members. And this is a much more impulsive Masatos than we have seen in match 1, especially versus match 1.
Yeah, I think they got a little overexcited with that pushing of the line of defense, and they're going to try to do it again right here. They know where they are, so they're going to focus on those 2 sides, and with 2 at least players, at least maybe 3, and I don't think it worked.
Yeah, they pushed up as a 3-piece, and that is them trying to change up the tactics a little bit, trying to push the singular unit so they can use that bully tactic. The problem with that is that all of Loops is hanging back. All of Loops is hanging back, and so they all had lines of sight on them. At least 3 of the members did, and they were just easily picked off there.
Yeah, what they need to do is start, and every team is doing, at this point, every team knows where the best positions are if you're playing back. And Masatos knows it better than anybody right now. So they just were trying to get 2 people out at the same time. They should have just went against 1, and they definitely had the opportunity to do it there. Even with 3 people, you can go against just 1. They instead went for 2.
Well, CJ, it just looks to me as if this match has gone past the Masatos as they trail behind 13 points. Loops has only 3 points more to get before they acquire the win here. It looks like Masatos are just under pressure. They seem to be making these mistakes, and it just goes to show, you know, Loops is a long-standing team. They have so much synergy with each other. They know how to react under pressure, and give credit to Loops, because after losing round 1, you know, there was definitely a change of the tides for them. They realized where their mistakes were made and where to account for it, and they did so beautifully as Loops takes the victory and will advance on.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Loops has adapted very well. We were talking about how well they were playing aggressively, and here they just showed us how well they can play when they play back, with some really good mid-range shots peeking out, and also providing that support amongst the whole line of defense, not just having a 2-person on each side. Although they kind of did that, they more made a wall, and everyone kind of focused wherever they were getting pushed from. So it was hard. It was hard for, you know, Baluk to make a great push in one side, and I mean Masato's pushing in from one side, and it just didn't work out.
You know, it really goes to add on to the confidence and momentum factor. I think, you know, confidence going up against a team like Loops might automatically kind of be a little hindered. But I don't think Masatos really were that way. I think they came in here fairly confident. And I think after match 1, they definitely came in confident. Unfortunately, in that case, confidence, borderline cockiness, and Loops Esports apparently is the kind of team that works very well under pressure, very well when the heat is on, and does not have too much trouble changing up their tactics, adapting to the scenario, adapting to the situation, as Loops was able to dial things back, and Masato's riding that momentum and confidence from match 1 ultimately played out to their detriment as they pushed out into very, very vulnerable positions. Slowly but surely in match 2, Loops was able to slowly accrue those points, that several point lead, and just ride that momentum. And unfortunately for Masatos, they did not quite change up those tactics as they moved into the tiebreaker. They still held on to what worked in match 1, but at this point they were already facing a very different Loops.
Yeah, they were trying to do the exact same tactic, but moved up just a little bit. They moved up to the middle. They made a line there for Masatos when they were losing, but you still need to have that next level of, all right, what do we do from here? Are we pushing? Are we not pushing? Are we waiting for them to come out? If we wait too long, we're going to have the timer run out and we're not going to get any kills. So I think Masatos just didn't have that extra, okay, we made it here. What are we doing next? And there wasn't a real good answer, mostly because Loops is such a good team that they didn't really make an answer. There was only one time I saw where Masatos was able to push through. That was once out of all that line of defense early on, one time, which is incredible for a team to be able to hold that for so long.
Absolutely phenomenal comeback on Loops' end. Well, they are going to advance, which means we are going to eventually see the standoff between Baluk Chopton and Loops Esports. But first, before that, coming up, we've got the Toxic Wolves facing off against the Panthers. We got the Wolves against the Panthers, man. That's a kind of a cool little analogy to think of. Fraternity Esports is going to face off against Dope Esports shortly afterwards, and then the winners of that are going to be facing off to see who's going to be taking that first place prize of $1.6 thousand. But guys, no time to waste. Let's go ahead and get into the thick of the action as these Toxic Wolves face off against the Panthers.
I am really excited to see how the Toxic Wolves play. I really loved the way they played last time. It was kind of similar to the way Loops played just earlier, where they constantly chain up the strategy based on the outcomes. So here, let's see what they do.
And I'm sure there's somewhere in here, there's a dad joke about dogs and cats here that we can make with the Wolves and the Panthers. But I don't know what it is yet, but I'll be thinking of it, and I'll be sure to ruin the day.
Write it up in the chat if you got a good one for us. There you go. That way we don't have to think of one.
We have a nice little tie here as the Panthers tie it up with the Wolves 1-1, and both teams playing this fairly cautiously, picking the most choice shots. Mariana holding back position behind the logs, waiting for the right time to strike. Mariana responsible for the only team's kill.
Yeah, both teams in the last game, as I mentioned, they were playing it based on outcomes, especially the Toxic Wolves. So I think we're going to see pretty defensive play in the beginning. If one team has a major lead, they'll constantly play defensively. If the team's starting to lose, they'll play more aggressive. But right now it's pretty even. So both teams are holding back a bit.
I think that definitely emanates what we saw from the Toxic Wolves yesterday.
Yeah.
Just that once you accrue that several point gap to dial things back, play things a bit more conservative, a little bit closer to home, you got that advantage, utilize it. And we saw the Toxic Wolves do that beautifully yesterday, and it looks like they're going to hopefully try to do so again today. However, Panthers not affording them that luxury of time of getting that several point lead just yet, as the Panthers tie it up 3-3.
Yeah, there's a lot of trades right there that just happened, and it really goes to show how well communicated these teams are. They're not going to have an easy shot and then be able to back off without any resistance. They're always going to have some support. And just we saw it right there, Poppy trying to get that kill. He does, but he gets shot immediately after.
And we've seen that tactic utilized almost between every team so far. Is you have that accountability buddy to counteract your team being taken down with a retaliation kill. That way you don't lose that point gap by too much, because once that person has faced off against one of your members, even though he got your member down, he's probably weakened. So it's just up to you to pick him off at that point.
Yeah, it's also on position as well. You don't want that player to get into a position where your own teammate was just a moment ago, and then he can control that area. So you want to make sure he's out for those two reasons: positioning and obviously to get a kill on the board.
That's a great point. The fact that I haven't brought up the positioning advantage of, reclaiming your partner's positioning, it's absolutely crucial when it comes to preventing the opponent from advancing up.
Yeah. So we still have a pretty even match, 4-5. The Panthers looking pretty good here. They're definitely going to be waiting it out more than the Wolves, but we still have 7 minutes. So I think both of them are pretty much in the same strat type situation.
Yeah, Mariana really utilizing this position behind the log. She has been right back here the entirety of the game, but it has been working out beautifully as Mariana has claimed 3 of the team's 5 kills so far.
Looks like a lot of people are rooting for the Toxic Wolves. I like it. Christina, Andrea, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, apologies. Everardo, I'm nailing it. I know I am, definitely not. I'm just kidding. But thank you for rooting for your team.
Wow, we have a lot of people in the chat rooting for the Wolves here. As toxic as they may be, they definitely have a fan base. And the Wolves are going to have to pull something out, because they are fairly evenly matched here against the Panthers. Panthers actually leading by 1 point currently with 6 minutes remaining on the clock.
Kevin Summers says, why didn't Vivo move forward? I'm not sure myself. I would love to hear maybe someone mod-wise, if you guys can help out with giving us that detail.
Yeah, if our production team can... I don't want to say the reason that I think it is without getting confirmation from our production team. So if they can let us know, I think it might have had something to do with a nade being utilized that was not caught on the live feed, but I could be incorrect about that. So I will hopefully get confirmation from our production team and let you guys know.
I'd probably say that's the most likely, but we don't know. So we're going to keep our thoughts on don't know until we get more info.
Exactly. All right. Now this is interesting. We've been out at a 4-5 standoff for about the past minute and a half or so.
Yeah, these are the positions most teams take. Poppy Hitman taking over the middle crate. Mariana holding the short crate on the left side of their side screen. And here we have one player just kind of a beat to his own drum, waiting for maybe somebody to push on the Toxic Wolves end.
Yeah, it seems that 1 point lead is all the Panthers really needed to start changing things up, dialing things back, holding on their position. All that they needed and then it makes sense, you know, at a match that's moving at this slow of a pace, a 1 point kill does make a fairly significant difference here, and the Panthers know it.
Well, Seek waiting in line there. A lot of little tit for tat shots for sure, but nothing too significant. Obviously, nothing fatal.
Yeah, as we saw yesterday, as we saw against Baluk Chaptan, you know, that 1 point lead is often what makes the difference between a win and a loss. And we definitely saw it between Baluk Chaptan and Blackwater in match 2. And we could very likely see it again in this match between the Panthers and the Wolves.
Yeah, I really don't know. I'm trying to think of a strategy that really would break a line of defense like this on both sides. Oh, we got a big push coming on now. Yep. And he's going for it.
Overwatch as his teammate Poppy Hitman advances.
It was a 1v3 situation as far as Jay getting pushed, but he pushes back, which is a smart thing, I think, in that very moment.
Ayuya shot down to half health here. Freddy holding position here on top of the box.
Still 5-6.
Yeah, and the Panthers are maintaining that lead, that 1 point lead. They are implementing this accountability system perfectly. We just keep bringing up the accountability system, and that is probably getting a little bit frustrating to the viewer, but it is just so recurrent at this level of TDMs, is that it seems to be the most effective tactic here to utilize, at least on this warehouse map, is having someone to account for you being taken down. And the Panthers are making sure that for every kill put on them, that they are retaliating with one on the Wolves.
Yeah, it looks like Ander was able to push up, and I think another player on the Toxic Wolves had pushed up with him. It was Hitman. So Moso, I think, understanding that the numbers are getting a little crazy on that side, pushes back. Maybe should have pushed with another player there. I think Mariano would have been a nice player to add on top if they stayed together in front, but they're just going to let Toxic Wolves stay there for now. Ander now has free motion to move around there. He realizes, I'm not getting shot, so I can move up if I want. And so I don't know. I don't think the Toxic Wolves are, or never mind, the other team. I don't think the other team is able to hold the line of defense very well here.
Okay, well, that's an interesting approach. The Panthers are, you know, still maintaining that lead, and I would actually argue that they are holding the corners fairly well. Mariana responsible for last time I saw the majority of the team's kills while holding back pretty much the entirety of the game, just picking off members of the Wolves as they creeped around. However, the Wolves are just so closely matched to these Panthers. It is hard to say that the ball is in anyone's court.
Yeah, the Panthers have definitely pushed back an extra level, just a little bit of an extra level. I don't know if that's going to work. It does work against Poppy Hitman, and Anders taken down too. Still a 1 point lead, but you know, I thought that big forward placement from Toxic Wolves was going to really pay off with a lot of kills. It just didn't work out that way.
All right, we've got a lot of opinions going off in the chat about conservative gameplay and what it means in a TDM. But guys, as you will see time and time again, at a level of competition that is usually this fast paced, but at least on this small of a map, you will find that every mistake will cost you your life here, and they only have a certain number of mistakes allotted to them. So it does make sense that when one team is holding back, that the other team does try to dial things down accordingly as well, unless they do dominate that team in terms of close quarter combat. And in this case, at this high of a level, neither team dominates the other in close quarter combat. So this reservation, this hesitation does make sense to me.
Yeah, and these are also, you know, the best teams pretty much around. So they're going to have the best gunplay that you can possibly have, and any mistake that you make will pay quickly. So trying to use the best advantages you possibly can is going to be the name of the game here. And we got a big push from Toxic Wolves. They're getting a lot of Good pushes here. It's getting a little chaotic as players are coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, the Wolves are definitely trying to make moves happen here, changing up their tactic, getting a little bit aggressive. Maybe they were listening to the chat and said, hey, we got to do something for the viewers here. But in doing so, they got a little bit impulsive, and the Panthers still remained holding back the position, are just able to clean them off with at least 1 or 2 members facing him over. Bobby Pittman should have had 2 people staring in at him, but he did not in that case. And ultimately, the Panthers are going to take the win for this.
Yeah, the Panthers, they were definitely the ones playing back, mostly because they had the lead for a majority of the game. I don't think they were ever really losing. They always had either 1-point lead or a significant amount, which they had at the end there. So they were playing back. They were actually playing way back, farther than what Loops was playing at the end of their last match, to the point where they took the top of a little shed there. So definitely paid off. I thought the Toxic Wolves did pretty well getting to a forward position, but they never were able to capitalize on that. And I think some of that had to do with the fact that they got squad wiped as they pushed forward, and they had pretty much everyone go back to spawn, which led the lead to be huge at that point. For the Toxic Wolves, I would say their best bet is to play back here, try to get that early lead so they can play exactly how the Panthers played it. For the Panthers, I think they're going to play exactly how they played it here.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It seems at least for match 1, that the name of the game for the Panthers was leverage. And all they needed was a tiny sliver of leverage before they started implementing this hold things back tactic. They had a 1-point lead, and then they dialed things back, and it took a real slow turn. The gameplay got a little bit stale, and that's when the viewers started saying, hey, what's going on here? But you know what? It makes complete sense. And honestly, I think you are 100% right. If the Wolves are going to have a shot at coming back, they are going to have to come up with an early little bit of leverage for themselves as well, establishing a several-point lead, and then they're going to have to dial things back and hope that clock runs down the same way that the Panthers were able to run that clock down and force the Wolves to come out into the open.
Yeah, I mean, the Wolves were definitely the ones that needed to do the pushing at that point, and they were trying, and I thought they did a good job. It's just that even when they got to that forward position, they were not able to execute to get the rest of the enemy team. The enemy team was pretty much holding back into their right spawn point. So they kind of had them at a horseshoe type style level. And I thought that would be enough. It just wasn't, though. And so you do have to give kudos to the Panthers for having a strong defensive line, even if it wasn't something we're normalized to seeing. The defensive line we're normalized to seeing is that warehouse. Right at the beginning of the warehouse, you have a line of players. This time it was even farther back.
Yeah, I'm going to argue that for both teams, the name of the game is leverage. Now, I'm going to withdraw my previous statement and say for both teams, the winner of this match is going to be the one who can establish that early lead. And then I think you'll see from whoever does it, whichever winning team is able to establish that lead, you are going to see them dial things back and try to run that clock down. And that's my prediction here. I've said it time and time again. The only thing that's predictable is that these TDMs are unpredictable. But if I were to put my 2 cents down, that's what I would say. Well, guys, no time to waste. Let's get into the thick of the action as the Panthers and the Wolves go at it once again. Can the Wolves tie things up, come back from this deficit? We'll have to wait and see.
Rebirth is asking, pretty sure they're allowed to suicide. Yes, they are allowed to get new helmets and new vests, obviously new ammo.
Yep. Yeah,
but they cannot use nades against opponents. That is for sure, too.
Yeah, and absolutely no sliding is allowed either.
So here we go. Looks like the Wolves have picked their spots. Ander, I love this spot. I usually take this spot early if I can as well in TDMs. You see the rest of the Panthers. They're holding up more of a normalized line of defense. Again, earlier they were playing one back. Especially when the Toxic Wolves got to a certain point, but they haven't gotten there yet, so they're going to play that line similarly, the way we've seen Loops and others do.
Yeah, hesitancy seems to be the name of the game here for both teams, at least at the moment, because both teams are very, very well aware that whoever acquires that first lead is going to have that leverage that they need. And it seems like the Wolves putting down the first kill are ready to capitalize. We'll see if that little 1-point lead is enough for them to dial things back. Truth be told, I don't know how they could dial things back more than they already are. So it's going to come down to see how the Panthers react under pressure. But I don't think with a 1-point deficit, with 8.5 minutes remaining on the clock, the Panthers are too pressured yet.
Yeah, there's no big pressure yet. Even though the Wolves have a lead right now, I don't. The Toxic Wolves have a lead. Oh, maybe not anymore. No, they do. They get to keep it and tied it up right then and there.
Yeah, it seems the caster's curse is all too real. As soon as we say one team is winning or one team's in the lead, it often becomes that that is not the case by the time we end up finishing the sentence.
Nice job, Fratty getting a kill there. No hits in return. Goes for Poppy. Oh. Poppy has no clue. Where is the communication?
Yeah, Frady picking him off, and that is another mistake on the Wolves' end because Frady just had just to pick him off without any retaliation whatsoever. So that means that that person was out there in the open on their own. For whatever reason that was, the Panthers capitalized.
The Panthers just pushed back. Mariana was an excellent example, going all the way back to their original line of defense. And because they have that lead, they have a 2-point lead, they're going to make the Toxic Wolves work for this. So we'll get the sense. Fratty has that top. This is not the normal line, actually. You know, they taking that top shed is one that's farther back. I don't know if they're going to start working from there right off the bat, although Mariana moved up, which wouldn't really include that. So I'm kind of unsure of this line of defense, but they are trying it out this way.
Well, I think this is the same line of defense that they have exercised in match 1 because Mariana, that is Mariana's notorious position there, where he or she just picks them off from right behind the logs and does have does have an accountability buddy there nearby to account for if he is taken out, he or she is taken out. Mozo holding position behind the cement blocks.
Mozo's pushing up a lot. That's aggressive.
Yeah. That was a very impulsive push there, and I don't think that Mozo was ready to account for there being 2 Wolves to face off against.
Well, I do like them switching it up a bit so you don't become easily understood. So the Toxic Wolves wouldn't feel comfortable doing one thing because they know someone won't be there. You always want to mix it up for that reason. But that didn't work here. 6-11
like
though.
The Panthers are starting to find that swing of things that they found in match 1 as well, as they start to widen the gap between themselves and the Wolves.
Look how much they pushed up. That is not normalized here. The Panthers is not a team that's this aggressive, but it's working so far with a 5-point lead.
Well, it seems like the Panthers are able to capitalize on the Wolves' hesitancy here. It seems the Panthers might have a little bit more experience in that all-out aggressive tactics, that all-out push tactic. Pantera with a beautiful shot there.
Yeah, that was a nice pre-fire too. He just kind of assumed someone was going to peek out, and it was true. Anders saw Mozo waiting for him. And there he goes. All good. Jay is now pushing up. He sees 2 and no longer sees anything as he's put 6 feet under. Got 13-16 now.
All right, well, the Wolves desperately trying to close that gap between themselves and the Panthers, but the Panthers utilizing the same tactic as they did in match 1 perfectly, establishing that several-point lead and then dial things back and wait for the Wolves to become impulsive, and they aren't having to wait for too long. Wolves are trying their best to hold position, but ultimately you can see the impatience just wear on them. And look, and her pushing out into the open, even though it seems time and time again to work against their favor.
Andrew has no teammate to support and gets taken down pretty easily there, especially with low health.
Yeah,
but yeah, the Panthers were playing forward, even with a lead at times. Now they're deciding to play this one back and forth, either playing the line of defense or moving up. I like it. I really do. I think this is the way you should play to make it hard for the Toxic Wolves to find any sort of consistency or understand what the Panthers are going to do next. It's really keeping them on their heels.
Well, we got Kevin saying in chat, that's how the Panthers play classics. They come in top 40 and play edge the circle. Well, you know, at times there are a lot of teams that like to utilize in-game, and I don't really think that there's anything wrong with that. The Panthers know how to get their kills, especially in classics as well. They've dominated my tournament before, and they have done so by utilizing in-game, not so differently than what Kevin is saying. But I don't think that that is any kind of weakness at all. I think that's just strategic placement holding and knowing when to strike.
Yeah, and I see it in chat from Rebirth said I'd say the key to win is to take map control with a lead. And for the most part, we really haven't seen that type of strategy be implemented until now. I think the Panthers are doing an excellent job trying to take parts of the map for themselves, not just where they are from spawn point, but also certain edges of the map, even with a lead, so they can really take control of certain spots. But I think now that they've lost some of those edges, that they are playing their spawn point line, their defensive line, that is what we've seen most of the time here when you have a lead.
Well, it seems the Panthers have really found their footing here, and they're playing this very similar to round one, and they are slowly but surely widening that gap between themselves and the Wolves. The pressure slowly mounting on the Wolves' shoulders, and the Wolves becoming more and more impulsive. They're just getting a little too thirsty for blood and pushing themselves out into points of vulnerability. And it seems the Panthers are just expecting it to happen at this point. You can see Freddy patiently waiting here with 9 kills to his name, and you can't argue with the tactic when he's got 9 kills in a match that's 20-30.
Yeah, Freddy did an excellent job there getting a kill, and it looks like a teammate did as well to make it a 9-point, now 10-point difference. The Panthers, I think, are starting to play this one back, given that they know time constraints are in their favor and the points are in their favor. So they are not going all the way to the enemy spawn point, but they are trying to keep some level of a line while playing mid. I would say mid or even behind the line of defense is some places that they're playing on.
And how you're able to utilize that positioning even with being at a disadvantage health-wise, able to utilize that little bit of box cover and retaliate while the guy was getting a reload. That was really nicely played, and just goes to show how the Panthers utilizing their positioning of the Wolves' impulsiveness is working out so beautifully for them as they establish a 13-14-point lead over them. This game is in the bag. The Panthers have dominated this match, and they are going to take the win most likely.
Fantastic. I mean, look at that. 14 kills for Fraddy alone, 11 for Jay. I mean, you got it. Both players were playing extremely well on that last game, and they really had a good lead throughout the game entirely. They kind of broke it out, especially when they were able to break some of the line of defense that Toxic Wolves were doing. And so whenever you're able to find a position ahead, especially along the edges, get a little bit ahead so you have that place where the Toxic Wolves aren't sure. Are they there? I'm not really sure. They shouldn't be there because they should be playing their line of defense. They have the lead. Why are they moved up so much? And they're caught off guard.
Yeah, well, the Wolves, they got a little too impatient here. Case is plain and simple, and you could tell because the way they performed at the beginning of match one was pretty much neck and neck with the Panthers, at least for the first quarter of the match. As you could see, once the Panthers were able to get even that little slight lead, the Wolves played a little bit on a tilt, a little bit more reluctant, or a little less reluctantly, a little more impulsively, and the Panthers never lost their cool. Panthers held back and said, you know what, we feel more comfortable in this close quarter combat situation than you do, so when you push up, you're going to have to face up against us up close, and we're going to have the positions of cover when you do so. And the Wolves took on that agreement, and that is a fatal error on their end, especially when they did not have that much of a point deficit, and that could have waited till a lot later in the game, to be honest. But guys, it looks like it is going to be the Panthers that advance alongside Baluk Choptan and Loops Esports. But coming up, we are going to see who is going to become the victor in a standoff between Fraternity Esports and Dope Esports. My main man CJ, what are your predictions for this match?
You know, I really liked what Fraternity did. Dope kind of squeaked one out. Both of them kind of squeaked one out, actually, to get that win. But Fraternity is I think, going to be my favorite. But just going back one more moment to the Panthers and what they were able to do, I really liked their unpredictability. I think that was probably the key word for me when I thought of the Panthers. They didn't always play it where if they were ahead, they played back. If they were losing, they would play forward. They did it where they played forward even if they had the lead at times, just to make the Toxic Wolves think twice about what they were going to do. It wasn't so much so that it was as chaotic for the Panthers. Obviously, they were very consistent in trying to stay together, have good lines of communication, because obviously they had their accountability buddies all the time. But they did not just say, okay, once we had the lead, we're backing up. And that's what Loops did. Loops were a little bit more consistent with that. Once they had a lead, they backed up. If they didn't have the lead, they'd push forward.
Yeah, Loops was very, very great at like knowing how and when to adjust their tactics and just how much to adjust them. And I think something similar happened here with the Panthers and the Wolves. But I think for the matter of the Panthers, it just became of let's not be too predictable. Let's be,
right.
You can pretty much assume what we're going to do, but we'll have our heats and our moments where we are going to push out and play the aggressor when the moment calls for it. And it played out really well. They utilized their situation and placement pretty perfectly, knowing just when to come out and strike. And that is why the Toxic Wolves started falling behind. And once they started falling behind, that tilt got them. But guys, no time to waste. Fraternity Esports versus Dope Esports. We're going to get into the thick of the action. Let's get it.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Let's see what these two teams could do. As we kind of mentioned a little bit before, both teams were literally to the wire going into their qualifier matches, and they made it here. So I don't know if we're going to see slow play, aggressive play. It might depend on the situations that they think of, but here we go.
All right, CJ, I'm going to repeat yesterday and ask you to take the reins for about 30 seconds, brother.
Nice. All right, I'm ready to do that. Dope. Kind of taking the rooftops and taking positions short. David coming in with an early kill, getting one to start by himself. I don't know if he had somebody near him for support, but in my view, he was kind of on his own there. Strap moving up, so a lot of push-ups there from Fraternity. I love it, as they are very aggressive. Looks like All-Tap is trying to get in position, but unable to. Great job from David. Again, I think he has 2 of the 3 kills now for the team. Here's Leggy's getting off the top crate as he probably heard someone at the awning point, and they have 2 players pushing on now. Dope, will they be able to get that kill? I don't think quite yet. It's still 4-1 now, 4-2. There we go, as Dope was able to find one. And now Alan, here's David shooting across with his teammate there. This is a great spot. We mentioned this spot a while. For the most part, we've mentioned it a lot. Having 2 people at that crate, one looking at each direction. It doesn't get much better than that. But we'll see what the rest of the team does. Strap is now going along the side of the left. There's 3 players for Fraternity taking that one side.
I like it. I like to see that 3-1 split. However, it does leave that one member vulnerable, but I think it's a trade-off worth taking. If you can start using that bully aggressor tactic on members of Dope, then who knows? You might just come out getting 2 kills at the cost of 1.
I really hope to see more and more of that. It looks like Fraternity only used that strat for a split second, and now they're going back to the more even line. But here we go, David taken down as well. David was, I think David has the most kills for the team so far for Fraternity, but he's also died quite a few times given how much he's pushed. So it's kind of an even trade when it comes to that.
Yeah, Dope Esports remaining calm under pressure, able to make a slow, steady comeback as they take a 1-point lead over Fraternity Esports. It's going to be curious to see just how much point of a lead is going to take before Fraternity or Dope starts to hold things back a little bit. Dope now leading by 3 points here, starting to really find their momentum. We'll see if Fraternity can make a comeback.
David needed to heal at one point. Strap was kind of left on his own and got pushed by 2 players. Now we see this line for Fraternity for a defensive spot here. Dope, though, has the lead by 3 points. So it really will be Fraternity's job to move up.
Well, it seems that Fraternity might be doing so, but strategically in a 2-2 split here. Oh, I scratched that. Potentially a 3-1 split yet again. Now, nope, I withdraw this. It is a 2-2 split. Thank goodness. Because I was just about to say, they did push up earlier with a 3-1 split, and that has serious advantages and serious disadvantages. It's a real coin toss. It's a gamble. Because, yes, you do have the bully tactic on one side, but on the other, if that same tactic is used against you, you could have a 3 or 4v1 scenario, and it's going to be easy pickings from that point on.
I think Dope let too much real estate go here. They are playing behind that trolley of a spot there, and that could be really problematic. You can see all the players from Dope all together in that one area, and I don't know if they're going to get hit from too many different directions now. Let's see if that works out or not. Looks like Fraternity is getting a lot of Dope members. Dope might have been able to get some hits.
Well, I think Dope is getting the hits. They're still maintaining that 3-point lead. They are accounting for the kills that are happening against them with retaliation.
Yeah, I think it was a 2-2 there.
Yeah, we just went from 10 to 13 to 11 to 14. Now you are seeing Fraternity slowly pick things back up here. I am seeing in chat that someone is saying he's kind of impressed by Fraternity here. You said that, you know, performing very well for a tier 3 team, and if they are a tier 3 team, that is news to me. But given the way they performed yesterday and under the heat of pressure in a tiebreaker match against Aton Esports, Fraternity really proved themselves to be at a higher tier level than the T3 level, at least T2 borderlining T1 performance.
Yeah, dope. I love the position from Casper right now. That was really good. He was able to really help out. I don't know if he got any of those kills, but he certainly put on the damage to make it easier for his teammates to get kills. And so Casper will go back up to the same spot.
Well, you can see Dope Esports really starting to utilize their leverage here. 6 points ahead of Fraternity Esports, leading them by 33%. This could be all the gap that Dope needs to start dialing things back and wait for Fraternity to become a little bit more impulsive.
Yeah, we got about halfway through this game as far as the time goes. A little less than half when it comes to the points, though. No one has reached 20 yet. So it will be interesting to see if Dope will continue to have this big lead, or will Fraternity be able to overcome this. Dope doing an excellent job playing the defensive team, while Fraternity, I think, is doing a good job being the aggressor. It's not easy being the aggressor, especially against a good team who is all positioned in a hard push spot.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is Fraternity realizes that the only way that they are going to be able to even these odds against the Panthers at this point with a 9-point deficit is by playing aggressively. And the problem is that Dope knows that too, and so they are accounting for it. They know Fraternity needs to push, and even though Fraternity is utilizing that push a little bit earlier in the game than we've seen from previous matches from other teams, it doesn't seem to be panning out so well for him in this case.
Yeah, right now Fraternity needs a few squad wipes, quote unquote. So they need to take them out, retreat back, heal up, and then do it again. So, and that's going to have to happen a few different times in a row, because Dope is so close to their spawn point that immediately when they die, they'll just come right back to life and be into the fight. So if you don't retreat right after getting a few kills, that could be problematic. And so that's what Mercy just did right there. He got I think might have gotten a 2-piece right there and immediately went back.
I see Emerson Ramos in the chat saying, I hadn't really seen Dope Esports play, but I see what y'all mean by winning by camping. And so I just want to reiterate again a point that I brought up earlier. When I think of camping, I think of people prone in the grass or holding down position inside of a house or a compound or even a closet while their opponent is very close nearby and has absolutely no awareness of their location. That's what I consider camping. And I think on a map as small as the warehouse map, and in a fight that is as fast-paced as a TDM, I don't really think you can call it camping so much as strategic placeholding.
Yeah, and I would also say, like, the major point there is the idea that the other team doesn't know where they are. That's camping. Camping is when you don't know the other player is just sitting there, who will have an easy line of sight on you. And that certainly is camping. But here, both teams know exactly where the other players are, which makes it tough to just run out there in the middle. You wouldn't do that in normal circumstances. If you're fighting another person, you wouldn't just run out knowing that the person's right there to get shot first. So you are going to play like this, where it's constantly going to be a mix on what works best for you. Sometimes it is being the aggressor. Sometimes it is kind of overwhelming them with your numbers. And at times it's like what we've seen earlier with slow gameplay. Right now we see the aggressive types going forward. Dope doing an excellent job getting the win.
Dope not only working their tactic of holding position perfectly, but coming towards the end game, they knew that they had such a lead that they could go out and start aggressing on Fraternity pretty quickly, and they did so towards the end of the game enough to hit the 40-point mark. I think Dope really found their confidence, and Fraternity sort of felt the pressure of it. Fraternity got on a tilt, and that point difference only got gapped further and further from that point on.
Yeah, the major thing I think with Fraternity is that they're going to have to find a good strat going forward. But you tell me, what do you think they'll need to do to go get the next one?
So I think this is going to sound a little hypocritical, but I think for Fraternity, I think what they're going to have to do is come out aggressive, just like they were throughout the majority of last game. I think they need to come out aggressive, and with a little bit of luck, establish a several point lead over the Panthers, or pardon me, over Dope Esports. And once they do that, I think they need to implement what Dope is doing so well, dialing things back, holding position, and utilizing that leverage. I think that's going to be the only way Fraternity is going to be able to pull this out of a hat, because Dope does seem to be the more experienced team when it comes to close quarter combat in this scenario.
Yeah, I actually do like what Fraternity is trying to do. It's just a matter of execution. They are getting to places that honestly Dope should not be allowing them to get to. But at that moment, we also saw this with Toxic Wolves, in my view, is that, all right, we got to the point where we want to be, and we cannot go forward from there. We are stuck here. Especially when they didn't have the lead. They didn't have the lead pretty much throughout the game. So they were constantly put to that spot, and Dope was just like, all right, finish it up. Come over a little bit more to get to us. And Fraternity just didn't have a quick answer. The other thing Fraternity needs to work on is they did have a good amount of kills. They had 2 kills when they were able to push the line, but then they got hit twice back. And that's mostly because Dope was so close to their spawn point that they were just able to come right back into the game, fully forced, ready to go, even maybe at a point where they were immune to damage and able to get some kills on the way out. So what Fraternity needs to be careful of, especially if they're going to start to lose like they did in match number 1, is to immediately, hopefully, get some kills and then back up immediately after.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think that's going to be their best bet and potentially their only bet, because man to man, gun to gun against Dope Esports, I think you might be boxing a little bit above your weight class in this position. And that is not meant as any sort of insult. It just seems that Dope Esports does have the synergy and the confidence. And when I say confidence, I mean that with a lot of emphasis, the confidence as well, to sort of dominate the situation. They have no problem coming in guns a-blazing, but strategically holding position as well. And when you can switch up your tactics, on a whim like that, you're always going to be keeping your opponent on their toes.
Yeah, and the other thing to also mention is that Dope had the better spot because they had the lead. They're going to wait for Fraternity to come. So if Fraternity gets the lead and they're able to play their spots of the more of a defensive way, that might be a different story. Dope might be the one that has to figure out an aggressive gameplay to get to Fraternity, and they would be struggling, and then that gap widens. But we haven't seen it yet because Fraternity has not gotten the lead yet.
Well, guys, we are going to see it right now. If Fraternity can pull that rabbit out of the hat and come out with guns ablazing, establish that early point lead, and then dial things back. That is their best chance that we're saying against Dope Esports. And I think Fraternity is somewhat aware of it, and so they're going to go for it, it looks like. It looks like they are putting some shots onto Dope, not able to get the knock, but they are coming out as the aggressors. And Dope doing what we expected Dope to do is hold back position, as they do have that one win cushion over them. Oh, and it's starting to favor out as Fraternity gets the first kill. Altap trying to retaliate.
Nice job from David. And that's what I'm exactly talking about. David got that kill. Even though he didn't take any damage, he might have been able to stay there. But he immediately retreats because now they have a 2-point lead. They're playing back. But Mercy hasn't played back yet. I think he's waiting to see if he can get an extra kill on the side there before he has to retreat. But he's lost a lot of health there. I guess they're trying to hold that one side of the map, even though they have a lead.
I think you're right, but I also think that Mercy's hesitation to relocate had more to do with his lack of health. I think he was just trying to wait to heal up to relocate, but then again, as I said, that he did heal up and not move. So I think you actually might be right, even more so. We got Casper holding position here behind the crate with 1 kill to his name, and that is the only kill for Dope Esports thus far. Keep in mind, guys, we are only a minute and a half into the match, but this is a much slower paced match than we saw in match 1. And that is to be expected, especially from Dope Esports. They are waiting for the impulsiveness from Fraternity. However, Fraternity coming out, guns a-blazing, it's working out in their favor so far. Now, all they need is a few more points, and then they have that leverage that they need to dial things back. Oh, beautifully done by Allen across the warehouse. Beautiful shots.
This is really amazing stuff because Dope shouldn't have any thought that they're going to still be pushing forward, because Dope has been on the mindset of, well, if you're winning, you're going to go back, right? You're not going to stay up front, would you? And right now, Fraternity's like, yeah, we're actually doing that. We're actually staying forward. You're going to have to cut through us even more than what you were used to.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Fraternity does seem to be holding things back here. It looks like that 4-point gap was enough for them to say, all right, let's... Oh, and David making a fatal error, what should have been a fatal error, and pushing right out behind that crate. He would have been in the line of fire for Dope Esports, but it was not capitalized on. And there's Strap from Fraternity shooting at half health, but at the same time simultaneously relocating himself.
Right now, Fraternity finally has gone back to, oh, maybe not. David's pushing up a little bit to that left side. That's definitely more forward than what we would normally see from a winning team.
And look at this, Fraternity literally doubling Dope Esports' points. It's not that many points on the board yet, but because it's not that many points on the board, with this much time has passed, I'm saying that 4 points is fairly significant.
Yeah, that definitely is right now. I mean, there's still a lot of time on the clock. And here's a push out from Menace. Menace can't do it. Good shots from the side to support.
And that's Fraternity implementing the reserve tactic pretty effectively. However, right now about to get ganged up on as David finds himself in a 1v2.
Nice job, David. David's been incredible in the short range, but it couldn't take two.
Yeah, just outmanned, outnumbered, and outgunned in that situation.
Well, Menace is going to go back a bit, take the top crates there. David cutting around. Altap there certainly noticed. David pre-firing in that corner, waiting for Altap to peek himself. It never happened, though.
Yeah, it seems like David is the wild card of the Fraternity Esports team.
Oh, we've seen two pushing.
And point.
Wow, great teamwork.
David making these absolutely ridiculously aggressive pushes, coming right out in the open. He did have a buddy there nearby, luckily for him, but still putting himself in a position of extreme vulnerability. It just so happened that he had the gun skill to make it work out in his favor this time, but that is, you know, accounting for a portion of that has to be luck, you know? A portion of that has to say, well, that situation worked out, but that can't be the case all the time.
What was really cool about that one play is that his teammate was in the warehouse, and they were able to communicate that out and direct it. They didn't have to be directly next to each other to work on that one, focus on that one player. They were able to understand that we got to push this one spot, and even if we're not right next to each other.
Well, that's a great point, and that it just to emphasize on a map as small as this warehouse map, you can be spread out from your teammates and still have each other's six pretty effectively because the map is not very large. The only way that you wouldn't have your partner six is if they were behind a corner or behind a crate, some point of obstacle where you could not protect them. But other than that, the proximity is close enough to where you can have each other's back, even at a every man for themselves tactic.
Oh, Fraternity having a 6-point lead. They've constantly had the lead in this one, pretty much never giving it away. And let's see if they can hold that out. If they do, they will be able to continue this game for another match. If not, Dope will take it, and then they would take it to go further into this tournament.
Now, Kevin Summers saying in the chat that Dope Esports needs to switch to an AKM. It does seem like everyone on the Dope side is rocking M4s, and that could be with potential advantages and potential disadvantages. One of the advantages we potentially saw right there with Altap putting distance shots down, somewhat distance shots, not even really, but ultimately he was outmanned there and still taken down. And now it seems Fraternity has the momentum and the leverage. They've got Dope on a tilt here at an 8-point deficit, and Dope is starting to make mistakes here. Menace pushing out.
Nice, Menace.
Behind his point of cover, but luckily he does have the gun skill. And this is what we were saying, you know, if Fraternity wants to win this, they're going to have to establish that early lead because Dope Esports really is probably the more experienced in terms of close quarter combat.
Yeah, the experience certainly should help, and I think Dope is playing this one the way you're supposed to play it. It's the difference is it's a matter of executing. If you're unable to execute, even if you know the right strategy, it doesn't matter. So Menace, I love the position that Menace took. A little bit of a difference. We don't normally see people in the middle of the warehouse. He did die, but he was able to take some kills with him. And Casper also gets a kill on the left side. David might be able to get a corner of Casper, although he's going to get shot from behind too. Good job from Altap.
Casper is putting the work in this match. He is responsible for 9 of the team's 19 kills, really trying to put his team on a comeback here. His team needs to sort of ride his leverage, maybe make him the forefront of the aggressors, and someone needs to play a support role for him.
What an excellent angle. We just saw a player from Dope that he was able to get some kills, and it's only 25-22, 23-25.
Oh, a 2-point difference now. This is Dope on the
my God.
comeback. Dope really finding their momentum here. All of them
They're
at
so
full
forward,
health.
though. They're so forward.
To heal up, but he does heal up. Dope at full health, pushing up, and you can't blame him. With all 4 members at full health, it makes sense.
This is a scary position Dope is in. This is kind of the make or break. If Dope gets taken down, I think that's it for Dope. If Fraternity gets taken out this close, that is crazy to believe.
Well, if Fraternity gets taken out this close, then Fraternity still has a little bit of an advantage where they come back with the invincibility on.
Exactly, yeah.
And that would put Dope at a serious disadvantage. You can't do anything against that person when they are invincible for what? Is it 5-10 seconds?
Ooh, they're only going to kill the trade out. David, though, gets a kill. Fraternity has a bigger lead now, though.
Yeah, Fraternity widening the gap to 3 points, but it is still anybody's game.
Oh, Leggy couldn't get out.
And they are accounting for their kills here. For every kill that they have to receive, they are trying to retaliate with one, but it does seem to be that Fraternity is maintaining control as best as possible, holding that 3-point gap over Dope. And case in point, the second Dope got their 29th kill. Just a brief moment passed before the retaliation kill ensued. And Fraternity ties it back up to have that 3-point lead.
And it's so much easier to provide support when you're closer to your spawn point. So you can just come right out, guns blazing, to do that. But if you're far away, if you're the team that's forward, you can't support until you run up.
That seems like a fatal error on Casper's end, peeking out at below half health, and he was just cleaned off. And David from Fraternity peeking at very vulnerable moments too, and I'm seeing mistakes on both ends, to be honest. Slight mistakes, slight impulsive, hesitant decisions here.
Oh, Dope just made it a 1-point game.
All right.
50 seconds left. Jumps out. They tied it up. Oh, no. Fraternity took the lead. 34-33. 34 up. With only 40 seconds. Are you kidding me? Fraternity letting go of their great lead. Fraternity needs this to continue. Dope needs this just to win it. But not necessarily need it, but it'd be nice to be able to move on without a third match.
If you're Dope, I wouldn't be surprised if you dial things back at this point.
That's true. They only need a tie as well. They tied. They move on regardless.
Interesting to note, everyone on Dope utilizing the right side of the map.
Yeah, they're playing that shed point, which has been working for Dope, especially in match number 1. That worked very well.
Blue team victory.
And the timer went out. Is that a tie?
I did not see.
I think that was a tie, and therefore Dope wins.
That would be Dope's win. Either way, if it wasn't a tie, then I thought Dope had the lead. So I believe that's Dope Esports advancing. Our apologies for not catching that very last moment of it to catch eyes on it. I wasn't aware that the clock was running out. I was getting.
I know. I wasn't really. I remember saying 40 seconds, and then I just completely lost track of time. Which, if you're a player, you do not want to do that. But it didn't seem like there was a big push at that time. Obviously we missed it, but for them to miss it is not a great sign, because there had to be some back and forth with kills, especially for Fraternity of sake, because if they didn't do that, if they didn't push earlier, they should have pushed earlier. That's the only thing I'm mentioning.
Yeah, I think Fraternity, they really came out playing match 2 pretty darn well. I think they came out on the aggressive, just like we said they needed to do. And I think at first they were utilizing it pretty effectively, and they had that accountability here, ready to retaliate on any kill that was happening to them. They were able to keep maintaining that several point lead, balancing the ratio out. Unfortunately for them, once it got a little bit closer to the end, Dope Esports was able to advance pretty heavily upon them, even so much so to the point where it's dangerous for Dope Esports, more dangerous for Dope Esports. But when we said it before, Dope Esports is probably one of the teams that's a bit more experienced in terms of close quarter combat. They sort of utilized that in that towards that second half of the match, maybe even sort of the last 3/4 of the match, really kind of dominating the situation by even a small point lead, maintaining that, keeping control of the situation, and Fraternity, being the lesser experienced team, sort of got the best of them.
Fraternity had a pretty nice lead in the very beginning, and I thought they were really better moving than we saw Dope at that last match. Dope was very much used to playing back. They had that early lead in match number 1, so they could afford to play back. They were playing even a shorter defensive line closer to their spawn, and that worked out very well against Fraternity. And I thought in this game, Fraternity did very well getting an earlier lead. They were also changing things up by getting some kills throughout the game, not just staying back and getting kills that way, but going forward at certain times to change things up. But it looked like with Dope in the last few moments, we're able to tie it up. And then I think it just stayed that way.
Well, another thing is that when Dope started closing that gap, I sort of felt the impulsiveness from Fraternity. I started seeing certain members putting themselves out in positions of open vulnerability. And granted, that's exactly what Dope was doing towards the end as well. So they were trying to match the energy that Dope was putting out. But again, Dope is a tier 1 North American team, and just really utilizing that close quarter combat advantage that they have just from having built up their synergy with one another, having played hundreds of matches, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of TDMs, just a little bit more experience and a little bit more acquainted with how to handle that situation under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about experience. That certainly helps, especially if you have experience against some really good teams. Being a tier 1 will allow you to do that and play in some big tournaments. But I think Fraternity held their own extremely well. I would say their worst game obviously was match number 1, but match number 2, they showed a lot of life in that. So I was really pleasantly surprised on how well Fraternity played. And if it was a tie at that last game and that would allow Dope to move on, I really hope to see Fraternity more and more in these competitions, maybe even make it to some tier 1 events if they don't already.
I think they've definitely shown that they have the potential to compete at an elevated level. Whatever you thought about them before this event, Fraternity definitely battled their way tooth and nail all the way up to the end. And their battle with Aton was pretty momentous. What a way to end the day yesterday. Our last 2 matches with Fraternity and Aton,
right,
and Dope and these X's.
So
both of these teams came out here really wanting it.
I think Fraternity must have won that last round, because I think we're going right now into match 3. Is this what we're seeing right now?
You're getting. I'm too afraid to say anything at this point.
I thought it was a tie. I didn't honestly see an extra kill. It could have happened in the very, very last millisecond of that last game. But here we go. We got Fraternity versus Dope. Dope with an early lead with 2. Let's see if Dope can handle it, though, and hold this lead. They've been doing very well when they have the lead. We saw that a lot in match number 1. We see that right now as they just added on another kill to their repertoire. Strapto and David pushing up on that one side. Let's see if the duo can make something happen here, as Menace is trying to get him out of the game, though.
And we are seeing Fraternity trying to advance upon Dope early game, and it's somewhat working here as they come back from a 3-point deficit to just a 1-point deficit here. Altap, and there it is, the accountability coming into full effect. Altap taking one of the members of Fraternity down, but immediately falling afterwards.
Here's Dope, still with the lead, but losing that lead. They had a 3-point lead in the very, very beginning, and we'll see if that changes. Oh, they tied it up now. Great job from Fraternity. Sometimes it can be very, very difficult to overcome the point difference, especially with Dope playing it the way you would play the math, right? The calculations is played back when you're leading.
Yeah, I am so confused as to this match happening. Like
I know.
I feel like it was a tie, and so if it was a tie, that would mean Dope Esports would advance.
Right. Maybe we must have missed it, because there's no way. There's no way it was a tie then.
We see Kevin Summers in the chat saying it was a tie. But if it was a tie, that would mean Dope Esports would advance. I would have, with at least as to what I was informed and as to what we saw in semifinals. But here we have it. Altap being taken down as Fraternity ties things up 5-5, coming back from a bit of a deficit, really showing their true colors here. However, Dope maintaining a little bit of the control.
All right, here's Allen moving up a bit. Again, Fraternity, they've definitely been the more aggressive team. Dope has definitely been the more passive team. I think they're both playing to their strengths, honestly. We really haven't seen Fraternity play the defensive line, maybe because they're just not used to it. I think a lot of TDM players, you know, casually or competitively, love to be aggressive. You know, if you're a team that has great communications, you're really good with gunplay, and you play in a normal classic match, you're going to dominate, and you're constantly going to be pushing forward to get as many kills as you possibly can. So everyone in these esports competitions know that part of the game. It's that defensive version that you might not necessarily be used to if you don't play a lot of TDMs. I'm not sure about that with Fraternity, but obviously they're not necessarily a tier 1 team, so they just don't have as much experience than Dope as far as that on paper.
All right. Yeah, well, we do have the word from the production team. It was a tie, and so they are doing it with a rematch, settling things with a rematch today. So that tie just meant we're going to do things over.
Do things over, like, just because I'm trying to figure out, didn't Dope, my brain, I really lost memory, because I thought Dope won match number 1, and then if that's a tie, then that would be a win for Dope, but maybe we're going with the idea that if it was a tie, then this is absolutely a must win for Fraternity. If Dope ties it this time, then they would win it, or if they win, obviously they win it.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth with the production team now, discussing this with them, trying to get to the bottom of it. Apparently the production team said the rematch would be the best way to settle things. I'm guessing that just comes down to this being the finals, and we want to really get the most out of this. So yeah, well, the semifinals, during the semifinals, a tie meant a point to both teams, which in this case would have meant Dope winning. But I guess in the finals here, we are going to go settle things with a tiebreaker for any tie.
Yeah, Dope is getting pushed a lot, but Fraternity, even though they're getting some kills, they're just coming right out of spawn and getting those kills right back. And that's the thing. If you're pushing that far forward, you're allowing the other team, even if they die, to come right back into the gameplay and work from even a limited death, you know, like when they're not going to get shot and killed to move forward.
Dope really maintaining the control, however small of a control it is. They are maintaining that 1 point, 2 point lead over Fraternity Esports, somewhat dominating the situation. And as soon as I say it, I cast or curse it, as Fraternity coming back a little bit here, and Dope not quite.
Ooh, tied it up.
I was going to say not quite able to retaliate, and they retaliated. Nice.
Well, Altap was kind of shooting from this left side, and that's always a dangerous thing to do, especially with the team that's so far forward. You really don't want to be doing that. That's probably the worst position to take when they push so far forward. So I don't think he's going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, I see Exo in chat saying tense match going on. Tense would be an understatement, I think, at this point, especially given the fact that the rules have been a bit more strict here now for the finals. It's going to get a really heated match here this time around between Fraternity and Dope. Both teams coming out here wanting this. Now, this means that if Fraternity can come back with a win over Dope Esports, that we will be going to yet another match, which would be a tiebreaker.
Yeah, great job. We just saw Menace do an excellent job getting 2 in a row there within the trolley in the middle of that map. Mercy taken down. Trap gonna, I don't know, get an angle from the side here, come forward to help out his teammate. I don't think that quite worked the way he hoped. He might have been taken down in the process. David has a good forward spot. Mercy gonna be shooting to the rooftops. He's trying to hit Altap, doesn't quite get the knock, but look at the health on Altap. Definitely lower than half. David still working this spot. He's definitely the most forward player of all, and it doesn't work, though. Is out of the game, or at least out of that particular matchup.
Dope really starting to find their footing here, and just the same as we've seen in previous matches, Fraternity starting to act a little bit on a tilt as we see Mercy putting himself out into points of vulnerability. Dope Casper from the point of his base, pretty much able to stand on top of that roof and quickly pick him off.
Well, that's the thing about, dying when you're so far away from spawn is that it'll take so much longer to get to the rest of your teammates to help them out. And we're seeing them come in one at a time as they die compared to Dope, where Dope, all they have to do is walk 2 steps out of their spawn point and they're already with their teammates. So that's the reason, even though it looks like Dope is getting pushed and you're thinking, oh, Dope must be losing. If you didn't see the scoreboard, you'd probably be saying Dope's losing right now, right? They're so close to their own spawn point. And it doesn't work that way, especially in competitive matches like this, because Dope is choosing to pick this spot. This is an option. Yeah. They're not trying to push. If they wanted to, they probably could push a little farther out, but they like it here.
They're participating from a position of comfort is what I'll say here, whereas Fraternity is desperate to try to sort of even the odds here, and they're putting themselves out in aggressive pushes here. And granted, that is exactly what we said they needed to do to overcome Dope and overcome this skill barrier here. But when it comes down to it, is they just weren't able to establish that lead early enough here. So it's going to be quite an obstacle here to come back from the 6-point deficit and, turn the odds. But Fraternity Esports not giving up, remaining hopeful and remaining on the offense and on the aggressive side. Look at this, Altap all the way back in base.
Yeah, I mean, you can see some people shooting from base, which is kind of crazy at one point. There's Altap. Yeah, he's just peeking it from the top there. But Casper, I think, is the main man right now. He only has 7 of the kills, which is kind of normal here. But that top of the roof, the shelter there, that was a solid spot. And look at this, they're doing it again. Alan without a gun, just kind of peeking his head. I don't know what that was about, as that certainly didn't help out his cause. But 25-34, Dope has a pretty good push for this. It looks like they're going to push forward now. This is the most we've seen them push out pretty much all the games. I think they just have that confidence at this point. Yep.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Dope
21 kills for Menace. Oh my God.
Regardless of whether or not it should have been a tiebreaker or whether or not we should have gone to another match, Dope does come out victorious in this situation. Dope Esports will be the advancer and in this situation. And,
and
go ahead.
And also, mentioning that Dope, regardless, was, in our views, we thought they were going to win it before that match. We thought they won it, actually. Mm-hmm. And so they just win it twice. We'll just say that, as they definitely locked it in.
Yeah, Dope just kind of solidifying the nail in the coffin there on Fraternity Esports. And I don't think Dope ever really lost control of this match. They gained a pretty early on lead and were able to maintain it by however large or small of an amount for the majority of the match. And Fraternity Esports were never able to really find their footing. To Fraternity Esports' credit, they did adjust their tactics accordingly to accommodate for Dope's very reserved gameplay in this match, which is it's interesting to see Dope play that reserve because they definitely have the gun skill advantage over Fraternity. But even so, they played things back, dialed things back closer to home, and just forced Fraternity out into those positions of openness. Well, guys, that's going to be that. And so now we are left with our final sets of matches here. We're going to have Baluk Chopped On facing off against Loops Esports, and the Panthers versus Dope Esports following that shortly after. And then those two winners are going to face off for the $1,600 grand prize.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what both of these, all 4 of these teams do. Going to chat for a moment there. I see Exto asking, first timer, are snipers allowed? Snipers are not allowed in this one. You can use an M4 and an AKM. You can have both, but you cannot have anything else other than that. Obviously, no nades, no sliding. But yeah, going back to these teams, Loops, we kind of figured that they would make it all the way to this point. This is probably one of the crowd favorites and also one of the favorites as far as odds go to winning this event. So that's pretty much a no surprise, no brainer for me there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Loops Esports versus Blue Chopped On, because Blue Chopped On is a team that has definitely thrived in a more reserved gameplay sort of fashion, holding things back and holding position, establishing a even a small lead and then just holding back. But Loops, on the other hand, I keep calling him this berserker coming out with weapons just swinging, not even worried about their own health. They're about how many of you can we take down at once. And so this is going to be really interesting because the tactic that Blue Chopped On is going to be playing into is going to be the tactic that Loops Esports thrives on. They absolutely, Blue Chatham is going to be expecting and accounting for Loop's aggressiveness, but Loops is going to come out aggressive either way. So this is up in the air for me. I do think that a lot of people are going to put this in favor of Loops, but given just the difference of strategy between these two teams, I think it's going to be an interesting match to watch.
Yeah, both teams have exercised great adaptability when it comes to strategy. Whenever someone Loops had a really good example of this. They were losing a few of they lost their match number 1 actually, and they just could not get back into it until match 2. But they learned to adapt. They figured out the right response, and they did it twice. So I really like that about what Loops did. And for Baluk, they're going to be doing that as well. They've been doing that within the matches, being adaptive. If they're ahead, they'll work a certain way. If they're behind, they'll work a certain way. And even when, they wanted to switch it up to make the opponents unsure of what to do next, they'll go ahead and do that. So I like the versatility for both of these teams. All 4 of these teams have great versatility. That's what kind of got here at this point. All the teams that we've seen pretty much on the bracket have great strategies, are able to execute, but not all these teams are able to adapt well enough until now. These 4 teams.
It's the ability to act under the moment that seems to be the real difference maker in these close matches. Well, guys, no time to waste. Baluk Chopton is going to face off against the heavyweights of Loops Esports, and can they overcome these heavyweights? We're going to have to see right now. Baluk Chopton versus Loops Esports.
Let us know who you guys think is going to win, and we'd appreciate it if you guys subscribe right now. Leave a like as well.
Team match, let's go.
All right, Baluk coming out, Loops coming out. It's going to be a nail biter for sure. I expect this to be a very close matchup. Loops loves to be aggressive, so they push up fast and early. Looks like Baluk stays a little bit back.
I am going to be honest. I think this is going to be a bit of a challenge for Baluk. So I'm going to say it's either going to be a close match or it's going to be a landslide for Loops. That's my prediction. And that is not to Baluk Chopton's discredit. Keep in mind, every one of these 4 teams here has just done a extremely phenomenal performance in these events. Coming down to the final 4 teams that started off with 500, dwindled down to 4 teams.
I
All
really
deserve to be here.
I really like what Loops is doing with the mentor and a teammate that's next to him. They peeked out one after the other, and that actually got a really good kill. I had never even thought of that strat until I just saw it right there. Wow, Dementor getting some free kills there. Needs to reload. He ran out of bullets. Luckily, his teammate was able to save the day against him. And I think now Loops is going to play a defensive line since they have a pretty good early lead of 5.
Well, now if Loops Esports did that move intentionally and intend on continuing that, that would be an absolutely mind-breakingly impressive tactic because they have not implemented it thus far. So that means they are saving some of the tricks in their bag till these finals. And boy, is it ever catching Baluk off guard.
So most of the Loops players went back. Chief is the only one that stayed forward, and he actually was able to get a kill out of it, so it worked out in the long run. But he was in no... He might be doing it again. Is he forward again? No, he's not. He played back again, or played back finally. But that was an interesting thing. I think Chief was just waiting to die, hoping to get some kills along the way, rather than just retreating back.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And now Loops, with that 6-point lead, is dialing things back, playing things a little bit closer to home, playing things a little bit more conservatively, hoping that Baluk Chopton feels the pressure, feels the vulnerability, and puts themselves out into the open on the aggressive side, and where Loops can just capitalize on it and pounce on them.
This is going to be so hard. This is going to be the test for Baluk and how well they can adapt and try to take out Loops, because Loops, this is like an iron dome that they just made, or an iron wall, I guess you can say as well. This is so hard to handle. Actually, Loops is playing this a little bit differently. Last time they had, I believe it was Toiko in the middle. They had him in the crate area, and that was a really great position. This time they're playing Toiko back, so I don't know if that was an intentional thing that they thought of before playing this matchup, but they certainly are doing it.
Well, I like what they're doing. I'm making sure that one of their members has a position of overwatch and cover fire for his teammates. Perched on that little rooftop, he can see a lot more of the battlefield than his teammates, and that could be a decent advantage, but you don't want to overdo it. That's why they're not putting too many people on that roof. Just one. That ought to be enough.
Yeah, and I don't think you would need more than that. Toiko has a good view of everything, as you mentioned. Here's Chief behind the wall there. Not a lot of people took that one in defensive line. So I love seeing the difference in way teams play, and I love how seeing Loops is playing it differently completely than we saw just in the last matchup. So here we go. Let's see if what BC can do about it.
Just to reiterate, that play you were talking about from Loops, where one member poked his head out, did some damage, leaned back, and the other member poked their head out. Again, if that was intentional, that would be the first time we have seen that strategy implemented in a TDM in this event thus far. And what a play it would be, because that would mean that Loops Esports held on to this play all the way up until this point to keep the opponent on their toes. And goodness gracious, if that is the case, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was really well. If that was choreographed, that was amazing. Like timed with communication and all that. It's just so hard to do it that way. But I can imagine that if they can do more stuff like that, that would be crazy.
Yeah, the amount of communication between those two teammates had to be so spot on.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But at least it's a big lead now. Loops is making 9-point difference.
somewhat, I don't want to say dominating, but this is kind of dominating the situation as Loops literally doubles Baluk's points, and we are only hitting the 3-minute mark into the match, and that is a significant lead. 9-point difference is a huge gap. Baluk Chapton has to realize at this point that what they're doing is not deeming effective against a team as aggressive as Loops, and a team as aggressive as Loops that's willing to dial things back. Boy, you better be careful, because this is a team that knows the all-out close-quarter combat warfare, so much so that they usually push right up on you and out into the open to do so. So if they're going to be fighting you from positions of cover, it could be bad news bears for Blue Chopton, and that seems to be what we're seeing here.
Yeah, Loops has been very successful in multiple ways. They were able to be aggressive, get a few kills early. Now they're playing defensively, getting still more kills and more kills. So it's really all around. Loops have been pretty good. And I would definitely say that would be the definition of dominant here, at least for this match.
Yeah, and that's what kind of goes back to what I said. This match was either going to be a neck-and-neck match or a landslide Loops in my prediction, and it just, I think Baluk Chapton is a very well accredited team, as we have learned in their own region, but Loops is also one of their reputation precedes them, and maybe it did come down to a confidence factor moving into this, but Loops came out here switching up the strategy from their normal gameplay and keeping Baluk on their toes, and you can expect that Baluk was expecting an aggressive Loops from the get-go, and Loops sort of keeping them on their toes, saying, hey, we're not going to be quite so aggressive as you expect. We're not going to be altogether passive or corner holding either. We're going to come, peak when the right moment approaches, but we are going to keep switching things up at a quick enough of a pace, a quick enough of a whim as to keep you predicting.
It does seem like Baluk is kind of just going around, not really working together at this point. I think they realized the writing on the wall. And you see the throw with the pan.
You see Baby Rod's throwing a pan. That does not look like...
So yeah, I think they know they've lost this one, and they're not even going to try to figure out a good strat to take them out, because that's what they would be working on right now, even though they'll take the L regardless. But great job from Loops. I mean, they executed exactly what they wanted to do. When they pushed, they got the kills. When they played defensively, they still got more kills. They didn't die out. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, this is pretty good. Baluk didn't even get to 20 kills, which would be halfway.
Yeah. Well, Loops, I think it's going to be best said the way Kevin Summers has said in chat. Loops doing Loops things. And boy, oh boy, did they ever. Absolutely dominating the situation pretty much from beginning to middle to end. They at no point lost control of the situation. If anything, they just buckled down even more so as the match progressed.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about that. Loops just absolutely took it straight on, and there was no answer back. So for Baluk having to go back to the drawing board, they'll have to figure out what to do. Obviously, they're going to want to have an early lead, so they don't have to be in that same position twice, but they do need to have a contingency, which is a very big possibility of, okay, if we're starting to lose and Loops start playing back, what do? We need to have a good answer, because we definitely didn't have an answer there.
Yeah, Baluk needs an absolute switch up in strategy, and they need it fast, because if they come on to this this second match, holding on to any of that same strategy, Loops is going to just decimate in that situation. They've shown that they can thrive at the full-on aggression, but just in this match alone, they proved we know how to hold things back and dial things back until the moment is right. And when you show a moment of weakness, we are going to pounce on it like a lion. I mean, they absolutely did. And once they started getting that point lead, it only just gappened and gappened and gappened further.
Well, I do see Roman 3 Gaming says TDMs are the best mode in PUBG Mobile. Much love from Chicago. Hi, welcome from Chicago. And he also says, seems like the AKM is the favorite gun to use. I would definitely say that for the most part, most teams have been using the M4.
I would agree with that. M4, yeah.
But the AK, I mean, we see, I think Loops was using the M4 the most. I mean, the AK the most, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure I saw that. And it is a really great gun to use in short range. I think Loops understood that when they were playing defensively, the AK is best. And if they get close to somebody, the AK is best.
I think even given the sort of team that Loops is, the AK really is the dominant weapon for them, because they are those teams that's in general the all-out aggressors, and they are going to push up on you and get real close to you, one way or the other. And in this last match, they said we're going to get close to you by forcing you to come up to us. But regardless, they were close up, and in that kind of close quarter combat, M4 versus AK, 3 out of 4 times the AK is going to come out victorious. But guys, we'll see. Can Baluk Chop Tan change things up, change the tides of war here, and get a victory over Loops Esports to go for a tiebreaker, or will Loops dominate a second match in a row? It's time to find out. Let's get it. Baluk Chop Tan versus Loops Esports.
One thing I'm really expecting from Loops is to do the same thing they did in match number 1, and that is to push forward for some very early kills and work together in some duos on each side. Baluk, I hope they try to push forward as well and try to get to those early locations. If they don't and they try to play defensive early, I don't think that's going to work out very well. But good job from Bad Bunny getting the first kill.
And pushing out aggressively against a two-piece here might be his downfall in doing so, but he...
Oh, someone's coming around the side.
Yeah, and it is his downfall. However, Baluk is able to even up the odds for a 2-2 tie, but it does seem that was a very impulsive mistake on his end. After securing the kill, to advance upon a two-piece that way was probably not the best move.
Yeah, I mean, points early is exactly what you want, and you don't want to give them away easily, because the moment you start taking the lead for BC anyway, you should try to play defensively. That's your bread and butter, especially against Loops. You're going to have to do that. If you don't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble trying to play aggressive when you're down.
I think what Baluk Chop Tan is also accounting for is that if they do that and pull things back, they are basically allowing Loops to get into their comfort zone, because Loops would prefer that you hang back and let them advance upon you, or the Loops would prefer that they hang back and you push up on them. Either way, Loops prefers to be close to you.
I would say yes, that's exactly true. Loops does prefer to move forward, but we did see an example in an earlier round against Masatos, where Masatos won their first round against Loops because Loops constantly tried to push, and Masatos had a good line of defense. So I was kind of hoping that Baluk can get an early lead. Unfortunately, that's not happening here.
No, Loops coming out, riding the confidence, riding the momentum, and Baluk is without a doubt on a confidence tilt here. And maybe this is a situation where they just are outmanned, outgunned. But I don't think that's so much the case, so much as a momentum factor. And maybe this does boil down to team synergy. I'm not sure how much synergy as a team Blue has, but I would imagine it's pretty darn thorough for them to be as accredited of a team in their own region as they are. But then again, they are up against the big dogs of Loops Esports, and at some point, you're just gonna have to say, is this a beatdown?
Yeah, I mean, you were looking at this right now, and it is the same trajectory with a pretty early and big lead for Loops. And it doesn't seem like Baluk had a really strong answer for them. I thought with Bad Bunny getting that first kill, it could have been something there. But as we mentioned also earlier, that Bad Bunny moved up a little too far forward and took too much damage in a 1v2 situation.
Yeah, Bad Bunny followed up an amazing kill with a crucial error, and that started the sliding tilt that Loops needed to just gap in their lead. As they lead Blue Chopton 10-3, it is starting the match is definitely starting to get away from Baluk, even with 6.5 minutes remaining on the clock.
Chief has a great shot here. Easy kill. He does take a few hits from Boy, and Boy gets taken down, though.
Get that.
Chief, I don't think Chief got that. I think someone else got that from behind.
He just leaned out with 5% health and got that kill. Wow. All right.
Yeah, I think he started realizing he was getting shot at, so he wanted to help out, but I don't think he got the kill at the end of that. Chief's low on health. He's going to try to avoid this. No, he goes for the fight. Gets the kill. Unfortunately, gets shot in the back, but he managed to get 2 and all for the price of 1, so that will work firmly for him.
And you'll notice Cardoson just holding position inside that crate, waiting for a slight peek from Baluk. Oh, Baluk really making up. What are they doing? Pushing that far out around the crate. Now doing so as a 2-piece makes more sense.
Oh my god.
Oh, just picked apart.
Oh, Chief going through the middle now. Once you go through the middle, you feel that confidence level. I think Loops is going to push forward. I think they're not playing the line anymore. They know that they have a really good chance of just dominating like this as well, where they feel the most comfortable. So they don't care about that line of defense.
Yeah, Loops definitely found their footing and are riding that momentum like a sled downhill and just picking up more momentum as they go, establishing now a 10-point lead over Baluk Chopton.
Yeah, now 11. That's definitely been the most we've seen ever in this matchup anyway.
Is it? I thought they might have even been leading by 13 points or something.
Oh, maybe at the end of the last match. Yeah, you might be right about that.
But Loops, just regardless, this is no small lead here, and Loops knows Loops is moving very confidently, very boldly out into the open in certain positions. You can see they're not doing so too much. Cardoson still holding position, Demeanor still holding position, but at the right moments, they are going to advance forward. However, let's just take notice that as I say that, Loops is holding back right now.
I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought they were going to go a little more chaotic and just kind of go all out for fun of it. But they are playing like this is still a big game that they haven't totally taken yet. So that just goes to show how well Baluk has been playing throughout the tournament. They are not letting off the gas here for Loops. Loops is playing this one safely still, not as safely as we might have seen in the very beginning of the game, but safely nonetheless, because they know how bad Baluk can be, or bad meaning in a good way, how bad they can be at shooting and getting these kills.
I'll put it down to this. It does seem like Loops is playing reserve, but only to the point of it being a 2v1 scenario. It seems that any scenario where that Loops finds themselves in a 1v1, you'll find those Loops members putting themselves out in the open, just like we saw from Toyko, putting himself out in the open, and Loops taking the victory with a landslide win there.
I think we saw Dementor with 14 of the kills going in strong. Congratulations to Loops there. That was a pretty dominant win against Baluk. As far as what Baluk was, I think both games are pretty much the same. I didn't really see much of a difference. Loops started off the game aggressive, pushed forward, got a few kills. Eventually, they would push back in order to create a line of defense. I think the only real difference in this one was at the end of this game, where it was pretty much known who was going to win. I think Loops played a little bit more freestyled, and to the fact that they still won it.
Yeah, I think after the first match, Loops had dominated the situation just So much so that they knew coming into match two that they could play things with a little bit of leniency. And boy, did they play it confidently. Loops knew that they didn't have to really change up any of their tactics from match one because it worked out so perfectly. All the pressure was riding on Baluk Chaptan to come up with some answer to this on your feet loop strategy. And Baluk Chaptan, to their credit, they never gave up hope, but they just never were able to establish themselves over loops. Not even for more than a brief moment at the beginning of the game. From that point on, Loops was pretty much running away with the lead. So this was a landslide victory here. And I'll even say that it was a little bit easier of a match than the match that Loops did to get to here. Loops had to face off against Masatos and seemed to struggle a little bit more against Masatos than they did against Baluk Chaptan. And I think the reason for that being is Baluk Chaptan has been playing the entirety of this event with a bit more of reserve gameplay. And so Loops forced them out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right because Masatos played against K19, they played against eStorm, and those are really good teams. So that was definitely a strong team to go against. Baluk, they were playing against some really good teams, but Baluk never really had to adapt into a strong way. I mean, they did have to adapt throughout those games, but didn't have to adapt to this level where Loops was dominant aggressively, dominant passively. They needed to find something else. And I don't know what that other thing was, to be quite honest. Loops just played that well.
Well, guys, who is Loops Esports going to face off against in the finals? Is it going to be the Panthers or is it going to be their fellow North American Tier 1 team, Dope Esports? We are about to find out. The Panthers versus Dope Esports. No time to waste. Let's get into the thick of the action.
Let's go.
Well, both teams are very prominent. They've been doing very well. Let us know in the comment section, who do you think will take it? I'm going to go with, the Panthers. The Panthers have been quite a surprise to me. I think, they played the last game against Toxic Wolves extremely well, in my view. I thought Toxic Wolves was going to take it. And now we see Dope. They were previously playing against Fraternity. And Dope kind of took that pretty in a dominant way, to be honest. So they got 2 in a row.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting match here. I'm not sure who is going to utilize which tactic because it seems like both of these teams have kind of been balancing a little middle ground between passiveness and aggressiveness. And I say passiveness with some leniency. Passiveness in this case just means conservative gameplay, and not really so much passiveness. It's conservative gameplay is a much more appropriate word. But both of these teams have exerted both play styles, and right now, as things are, it looks like they're both going to be playing from a conservative standpoint.
Yeah, the Panthers have taken a very short early lead, but that's about it. It hasn't been. It's pretty even at this point, and so both teams are just gonna try to figure out what to do next. I think there's gonna be a lot of communication on both ends, trying to say, hey, should we start pushing? Should we not? What do we want to do next? And I don't think both teams have really figured it out yet here.
Well, one thing to really take note of is that these two teams know each other like the back of their hand. These two teams go up against each other almost on a daily basis in the Tier 1 league, be it for Tier 1 practice scrims or, large-scale events. These two teams are so used to facing off with one another. I would go so far as to even say they probably play with one another, very likely play games with one another to practice. But they know each other's gameplay, they know each other's game style, and so neither team is ready to underestimate the other.
Well, it looks like some early shots from Altap, trying to hit Mariana, and taken down by another player. Couldn't get the name right away.
All right, we got Kevin Summers in the chat saying Casper and Menace need to bring their A game. Well, A game is what it's going to take, especially for Dope as they trail behind in a 3-point deficit to the Panthers.
Yeah, that's a pretty good lead to start, especially with this slow gameplay. We've already gone through a quarter of the match. It might not be a lot in general, but with the time, you got to equivocate that into this situation. 3 is pretty good. So Dope hasn't been on the board yet. They still need their first kill. We'll see if they can actually get it eventually. But time is not necessarily on their side. The more that ticks down, the worse things get. Yes, there's still 7 minutes, but it's still evident that time is not on their side necessarily.
Yeah, we have seen time and time again a 1-2 point difference is all that you need to become the victor in an altercation like this. 1 to 2 point lead is sometimes even enough to dial things back and play things closer to the base and just utilize that 2 point lead to force your opponent out into the open once the clock runs down. We've seen it time and time again, but the Panthers play in the very slow, very consistently as they establish a 5-point lead over Dope. Dope just now putting up their very first kill of the match as we get borderline 3 minutes into it.
Yeah, that's crazy how long it has taken Dope to get 1 kill. Meanwhile, 6 has been on the board for the Panthers. That is an incredible lead right now. The Panthers have this one in their views, right? They have this one hopefully in the bag in their own mentality. They're feeling that. And for the other team, what Dope needs to do is try to figure out a new strat. They got 2 and 2 working right now. Maybe that is the way to go, but they can't quite push. You have Mariana right there on the left side. You have someone up top. They know that too. They may want to hug the right side here by the warehouse, try to just take down Mariana and kind of let Jay stay there for a bit without an angle. I think that would be best for Casper and Al Tap. I think that would be cool for them to do.
Well, one thing is for sure, if Casper and Altap were to push up, then they would be vulnerable from their right side to 2 members of the Panthers, and that is exactly why they're holding position. It's not because Mariana is there alone. Mariana there alone is probably reason for them to push up. Oh, but see, case in point, Altap does push off, and he is picked off from his right side.
That's what I was talking about. Don't hug the left, hug the right by the warehouse wall. And nice job, Casper, getting 1 with them. That wasn't necessarily supposed to happen, but they are still down by a lot.
Yeah, you can sort of almost feel this match falling away from Dope Esports. They are realizing that we have passed the halfway mark, haven't even gotten to 12 kills on the board, and you're trailing behind by this significant of an amount. You're going to have to change up the strategy and change it up soon because that clock is going to keep coming down, and this tactic is clearly not working.
Yeah, and it is definitely not doing the job right now. I think Casper should continue to push up. Yep, it looks like they're pushing up now. Let's see what Dope can do. They have made it a little bit better for themselves. 10-5. Oh no, Menace taken out. That is definitely a pivotal point. He needed to stay alive to keep that line. Casper trying to shoot from that angle. Can they get the shots off? No, Casper's out too.
That seems to be the error that Altap faced last time, and Casper just repeated the same mistake, pushing up to that point of vulnerability where his right side had 2 members of the Panthers to worry about, and at that point he was just outmanned, outgunned, and outpositioned.
If Menace was still alive on that right side, that wouldn't be a bad spot, but since he died, you got to push back because he had no teammates providing support.
Yeah. All right, well, here we have it. Can Dope Esports pull a comeback, pull that rabbit out of the magic hat, and come back here as the Panthers literally double their kills?
Yeah, 14-7, 7-point lead with only 3 minutes and 20-ish seconds to go. Here's Al Tap getting a little close. And with Leggy, Leggy could be shooting from that angle too. Oh, this should be a good angle for him. I don't know if he got any of those kills, but now it's 14-10. Great job. 3 kill swing there.
Dope finding a little bit of hope. See if they can ride this momentum and even out the odds here.
Now, Dope can't be more aggressive than they are right now. But it looks like Casper doesn't care. He's pushing forward. He gets taken out. That was not the move by yourself.
That was an impulsive decision, and it absolutely went to his detriment there. And that's
even if he traded, it wouldn't be good.
At this point. That's exactly what the Panthers are expecting at this point. Even with just a 4-point lead, they can dial things back and just hold position and just wait for Dope Esports to make those mistakes. And boy, Dope is feeling that pressure with only 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock. They only trail behind by 3 points. This is a very possible comeback. I mean, it's very, very doable. But Dope knows that if they're going to do it, they're going to have to play it very cautiously.
I think eventually Dope will find an angle, and they do right there. They get 1. But I think they got traded with that, 17-13.
Let me also clarify. When I say cautiously, I do not mean passively. I mean they're going to have to play aggressively, but do so very, very carefully because they cannot afford to be killed too much more at this stage. As we reach the 2-minute mark, we have passed it, and they still trail behind by 4 points. This deficit has been maintained by the Panthers pretty effectively.
The Panthers want to be here. We saw this tactic before from the Panthers. They want to be in this corner so they can all be together, and if ever they die, they can come right back into the game to help out. So they want to be back like this. And oh, they might have pushed out too far. One got killed. Leggy's going for another one. He gets two. 18 to 15. 3-point difference. Another one. 2-point difference.
Dope starting to feel themselves a little bit here. They're starting to feel some momentum building.
Nice. And not only that, but none of their players got hurt to the point where they needed to push back. They can stay there because their health was staying up. And so TP, the Panthers, are now the ones that I think are feeling more pressure. Honestly, I think Dope feels more comfortable here. I think the Panthers are all staying in their own spawn. Yep, they're all staying in their own spawn. Without grenades being a problem, it's no big deal.
You can tell that the Panthers are feeling that pressure. They've definitely dialed things back, and Dope is definitely feeling the momentum as they've pushed up even further than they probably should have. They've actually, looks like they've dialed things back a little bit to the great. No, pushing up even further. Yeah, they are getting a little bit close for comfort here. And the reason I say it's close for comfort is after they get a member of the Panthers, that member is going to come back with 10 seconds of invincibility on him.
Right.
5 seconds of invincibility.
That's a big problem.
Oh,
1918.
Ow.
20 seconds left.
All odds against it. The Dope is really putting up an in-game performance here, and the Panthers do not seem to have much of an answer.
They traded. They got killed. They got 21 traded twice. 10 seconds left. Who's pushing up? Leggy's the farthest one up. Leggy, can you live? Leggy hasn't got a shot. 1 more seconds left. No, they couldn't figure it out.
And the Panthers pulling the Vin Diesel Bible quote right out of their pocket. It does not matter whether you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is winning. And the Panthers, all they had to do was hold Dope Esports off just long enough to get that dub. And boy, oh boy, they are going to have to be careful moving forward into round 2 because Dope has found their footing now. They have started to find the onsets of some momentum because, boy, they were on the verge of one heck of a comeback.
Yeah, that was really good. Dope. Fantastic. I couldn't, that's a lot of props to them. They broke through a lot of levels of defense. At one point, you saw the Panthers play a little bit more up, more middle, and then they got broken down, pushed back. The same thing happened. They had a line of defense. It got broken down again. They went all the way back to their spawn point, but they kept losing people after people after people with that strat for the Panthers. But Dope kept staying alive, and that's not something that is usual. That's not something that happens most of the time in these esports competitions. Usually the closer you get to one spawn point, the more you're going to have to deal with, the less likely you're going to survive that. And well, you just saw the outcome. It was so close. I wouldn't have been surprised if Dope took that, but unfortunately no.
Against all the odds, Dope sort of pulled that trick out of the hat. Unfortunately, it was just 1 point shy of doing so. But let's give credit to where credit is due. The Panthers never underestimated their opponent, Dope. At no point did you see them get so significant of a lead that they ended up going on that all-out aggressive warpath. They still held things back, held things closer to home, and played this a little bit more conservatively than I expected them to. And even after establishing a significant point lead, they still were not on the all-out offensive. And granted, give credit to Dope because Dope never really lost too much of that momentum. They were playing fairly conservatively as well. They were matching conservative gameplay with conservative gameplay. But come that last quarter of the match, you saw an entirely different Dope, really starting to find their momentum. And the Panthers did not seem to have much of an answer to their approaches.
Yeah, I think their only answer that Panthers has was let's continue to retreat because we are just not able to handle these lines. To the point where they're pushed all the way back. I think, yeah, I see some chatter in chat here, Brett, saying there should be a blue zone in spawn for a competitive match. camping spawn is a loser move. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a loser move. They're trying to do the best they can in the situation that they're at, but I would actually like to see that. I would actually like to see a blue zone implemented eventually in spawn, but that's never going to happen. But
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think overall, I think what the Panthers did was the smarter play. You know, they had some early kills. They had a pretty good lead in the very beginning by playing very well up front. And then they tried to play the normal tactic that everybody's been doing, where they play one level back and they have their line of defense. And if you want to come out and get these kills, you're going to have to earn it. And to be honest, Dope was earning it. They were getting it back little by little. And the cool thing about Dope as well is we saw a ton of teams in the very similar situation where you would push, you get the kills, but then they would be immediately swiped away because the other team respawned in and got the kills back. Dope instead got the kills. Either they were good and healthy because they really didn't take a hit, or they did get hit. They retreated back just a little bit. They didn't go all the way in full force. They stayed back, and that's I think where you're talking about with that cautiousness, with aggressiveness.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Dope did not ever recede too much. And listen, it's funny that because we are talking about Dope as if they won the last match because their in-game performance was that good. It really was that impressive of an in-game performance compared to what we saw from them the first 75% of the match. They were really performing at an elevated level that the Panthers did not seem to have a retaliation for, and it would have come back down to the point it looked like if there were 30 seconds more on the clock, that would have been a different end game. It could have been Dope's match very easily. So I am curious to see how Dope and the Panthers are going to go moving into round 2. How are they going to play? Is Dope going to be able to ride that momentum that they built over the end game of match 1? We'll have to wait and see. But currently, it looks like both teams are entering just about as conservatively as they did in match 1.
Yeah, well, you know, you see Dope here. They were kind of, you know, at a loss in the beginning of match number 1 because they started losing a lot, and they don't want to be in that same situation. So they're going to play passively for sure. And as far as the Panthers are concerned, they don't want to be in that situation. They understand that the moment they start to lose, and this is my opinion, maybe they don't understand that necessarily, but the moment that the Panthers start to lose, I think is when they're not going to win, because at that point, I think Dope will play a more defensive line. They will cause a lot of harm with the Panthers trying to push forward. I just think Dope played so much better, even though they lost. I think they played so much better that if Dope ever gets a lead, they're not going to let go of it.
I agree with that 100%. I think even though the Panthers won match 1, they lost confidence in doing so just because of how well Dope performed in that end game. And now the Panthers are on their heels here, a little bit hesitant to push up. It seems Mariano was more eager to challenge his opponents to a dance-off than anything. But it does seem that the Panthers are holding back, very reserved, and it seems to be a battle of whoever is going to get that first initial lead is going to be able to ride that momentum moving forward. Whoever's going to be dialing in those first few points is going to probably move things back and hope that the other team is the aggressor at that point. And it's very likely going to end up being that scenario.
We're still at a standstill as we've gone through a quarter of the match as far as time is concerned. Al Tap moves up a little bit. I like this spot. This is one of my favorite positions. He doesn't have a teammate next to him. Oh, no, never mind. He does have a teammate next to him. It's always have a buddy right there. I think that's a great combination. Very traditional, I feel like, in these games.
Especially, I think it's a great place to have two people for more than one reason. For one reason being, if Casper puts himself at any moment of a peak, he's going to look like he's a solo to Mariana. He's going to look like he's on his own there behind the crate. And that's going to be enough initiative potentially for Mariana to push out in the open. And yeah, maybe securing one kill, but going to be quickly retaliated on if that is the case.
Looks like Mommy Melly rooting for the Panthers there. But Julian says, but still hope Panthers lose. So got a little bit of a mixed bag here as far as chat.
Brett Flyner saying, got hope for Dope.
There you go.
All right, guys, so we're going to have to wait and see who is going to make the big first move here in this standoff between Dope Esports and the Panthers. It seems to be a complete standoff. You can hear a pin drop. No one is making a move here. You can hear everyone holding their breath.
Yeah, without this movement here, and we showed the importance of getting an early lead. Both teams completely understand that, and no one wants to lose it. So we have this situation on our hands. Mariana probably knows that there's two. Both of them went there, ran over here, so I think Mariana has a clear view of that. But we'll see. I mean, you have the Panthers here playing back right now. This is what they've been doing, their bread and butter move, especially against some of the harder teams. They don't want to be out there trying to match to gunplay necessarily.
I see Menace getting a little bit impulsive here, moving around, relocating in the position of the warehouse, which is, as we've said time and time again, a very, very vulnerable location. As much as it might look like a safe spot from being inside of a building, it's a building that has 4 very, very, very open entrances, 4 points of vulnerability, and Menace really is going to be risking a lot there.
Yeah, Dope has moved to the middle, and the Panthers have stayed closer to their spawn than Dope does to their own spawn. Menace is that one player that I think has the most kills on the Dope team. So I'm not surprised that he's moving around because he's anxious to get some of these kills and get this battle underway. But he cannot go against what his team is probably telling him and saying, hey, the first kill is going to be the most important kill. You can't just go one at a time. And I think Menace completely understands, but he's really aching to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. Menace is just riding out, putting himself out into positions of openness just for a brief millisecond, trying to draw out the bait, trying to set the trap for the Panthers and hope that those Panthers pounce on it, but they are not falling for it for even a single second here. And,
so hold on now. I wonder when we'll see the fight. Yeah. I mean, we got 4 minutes now left. So a majority of the match have gone underway.
Yeah,
and
this is the slowest start to a match that we have experienced in the entirety of this event thus far. As we reach past 6 minutes into the match without a single kill on the board, this is honestly getting to the point where I'm saying it's not exactly what we are hoping to see, but it does make sense on both the teams' standpoints. I can see why they are playing it this way, playing both reserve, but it has to be obvious to both teams now that you're both implementing the same strategy and that you are left here with a bit of a standoff. And there
they got a kill.
The Panthers putting the first kill on the board. And now, at this point, if the Panthers hang back and play the way that they've been playing the entirety of this match so far, it is going to make sense because they have that 1 point cushioning. And Hyuga almost getting it, but leaving his backside.
Casper coming in strong on that corner. But he needs to get out of that spot. I don't think that's going to be a safe way. Yep, gotta take it out. Maybe he couldn't get out. Leggy gets taken out. What a great turn from Fratty. Making it a 4-1 lead.
Yeah, it looks like the Panthers brought Dope out of their position of comfort, and after establishing that first kill, Dope got a little bit hesitant, or a little bit impulsive on trying to retaliate upon that kill. While they were able to get it, the Panthers just swarmed in upon him and getting 3 more kills. It's a 4-1 lead to them, and now that is a significant enough of a lead for them to hold back position like this.
Yeah, this is exactly what the Panthers wanted. They didn't necessarily need a big lead. They just wanted a lead enough to feel comfortable to go to their defensive line that they've been holding and not have to worry about being aggressive. So right now, 4-1 is good enough with only about 2 minutes left. Fratty almost getting shot in the back to death, but still good to go.
Yeah, and we can see here, Leggy just holding position, and it makes sense. With 2 minutes on the board, you still have some time, but now I would say right around now is where things are going to get a little bit interesting. If you're Dope Esports, you know you're going to have to start making moves happen and making them happen fast.
Looks like Fratty, I think, killed himself so he can fuel up, or not necessarily fuel up, but better his plates.
Armor and supplies, yeah.
There you go. 5-1 right now. Dope needs to make something happen as we're at a minute 30. Nice job against Mariana.
All right, Frady lean peeking. He's responsible for half of the team's kills. Literally all the kills that Dope has, Frady has matched it on his own.
Yeah, Dope now is having a struggle because not only are they needing to push forward to get some of these kills, but they've been dying too. So it's taking them a while to get back into it. With only a minute and 10 seconds left, a death on their side could mean that they'll take forever to get back and not be able to come back to help out for the end of this game.
And Hayuya holding back position behind the logs, and he's going to be easy pickings at that point.
Oh,
It's
yep.
easy pickings with when you have a teammate there ready to back you up. That was a 2-on-1, and it was just welcomed. Dope ran right into it.
Yeah, you really can't avoid the idea of needing a teammate next to you. I know time's of the essence, but you did have at least a minute to work with, to at least wait for your teammates to push forward with you, because that's really going to be the only way you're going to break through this line right now.
Yeah, and with literally only 30 seconds on the clock left, 6 points remaining, you are going to see Dope push out. And if not, it's going to be a fatal error on their part. There is no time left for conservative gameplay, and Hayuya knows it, but unfortunately...
Nice drop shot. With 11, it might be a little too late.
Yeah, it's a wasted effort at that point, and it looks like the Panthers are going to very likely come out victorious here with 7 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, the Panthers did a great job just understanding their situation and playing back when they needed to. I think they played back a lot, though, to the point to make sure they solidify it. As far as Dope, I thought Dope did a great job, especially in match number 1. They really didn't have an answer for match number 2, though. They tried to push forward. They tried to get some kills in return. It just didn't work out. They lost the early lead, which was an absolute necessary thing. Obviously, they understood it because no one had a kill until, what was it, like 4 minutes, 3 minutes to go. But they just couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out how to get the first kills. So that was definitely a letdown from Dope. I honestly believe, though, if Dope had an early lead at all in any of these matchups, then they would be able to clearly move forward with the next match, but that just didn't happen.
I think that you're right. I think all this really boiled down to is who is going to be the first team to establish that several point gap lead. Who is going to be the first team to do it? And the thing about it is, in this situation, both Dope and the Panthers knew it. And that is why we were left with 6 minutes of downtime of absolutely no kills, because both teams are extremely hesitant to put themselves in that place of vulnerability, because to risk getting a kill means you are putting yourself out in a position where you are very likely to be killed as well. And
yes,
with that brief 3-point lead that the Panthers established, I think it was a 3-point lead. That was literally at a game moving at such a slow pace and so few points on the board. That 3-point lead was significant enough to ride that out for literally the remainder of the match. Because once you have that, you can use your accountability buddy and just retaliate on every kill that they put on you and maintain that gap.
Yeah, we've seen the same strat happen with the Panthers. We saw the same strat with Loops when they won their matchups. We saw the same strat with pretty much all the winners here. And that is, once you have a lead, you play back, you have your teammates, your accountability buddies next to you to provide that support. And so you don't have to risk going out there to get those kills. Pretty much what we've seen consistently. There's been some variations to it, different positions for a defensive line. Sometimes you would go out when you do have the lead just to kind of mix things up. But especially for the Panthers, they played this to a T, like calculated.
Pardon, production team, what was that? All right, you got it, guys. Now, I am curious to see how things are going to be as we move forward. The Panthers are going to have to face off against the Panthers are disqualified. They broke a rule. Dope is the winner. They were faking accounts. Our apologies, guys. It is going to be Dope Esports advancing and not the Panthers. And guys, this just goes to state just how important following the rules are. Not much has gotten past our team here.
Right.
And so it is going to be Loops advancing, or Dope Esports advancing against the reigning champs of Loops Esports here. We're going to see here if Dope's more reserved gameplay is going to fare out well for him against Loops, because I could have said this for Dope or the Panthers. Both of those teams are playing at points of reservation that Loops just thrives on. Loops is so ready to be the team to push up on you. In fact, for you to ask them to do that, they are going to jump at that opportunity. So Dope's their position of comfort is really where Loops thrives. That is going to be a bit of an obstacle for him. So what that means is Dope is going to have to come out here kind of on the aggressive standpoint if they want to overcome a heavyweight like Loops Esports.
This is gonna be really tough for Dope. I mean, we've seen them play very well. Obviously, getting to this position, you have to play very well. But we saw Loops play against some of the hardest teams in here. Not only winning by a little bit at times, but winning by a lot, by dominant levels. So for Dope, they are definitely the underdog. And I think a lot of people are going to need to root for them to make their chances a little bit better. You know, when you root for a team, you're going to make them better. Is that true? It's up to you to believe that. But Loops, I'm sure has a lot of odds in their favor. And so we need to even that out a bit. All right, chat. So I'm telling you, root for Dope in this situation.
Well, you know, it is going to be interesting to see how Dope moves forward. They have a blessing in disguise, a gift from the angels above. They were not able to win this standoff against the Panthers, but they are advancing nonetheless. So Dope has a second chance at this. Now, granted, Loops, you know, got to where they got by just pure domination. Even in the match against Misantos, where they lost round 2, they came back guns blazing in round 3. So Loops is a very, very prominently aggressive team here, and Dope is going to have to figure out some way to balance and counteract that.
Yeah, I mean, we already saw Loops and how they played aggressively. They dominate. There was only one match, literally the only one I saw, where Loops had any issue with being aggressive. Other than that, they were able to take out teams being aggressive and also take out teams when they played passively, especially when they had a lead. That is going to be a big problem for Dope. And for Dope, as you also mentioned, they have to get an early lead. That's going to be number one. If Dope doesn't get an early lead, you can pretty much write this one off the books. It could be like a crazy match where Dope doesn't get the lead and then they take it somehow. That would be nearly impossible because that's how good Loops is.
Yeah, the match that we saw in match 1 versus Dope and the Panthers, you saw Dope at a deficit and they slowly were able to creep back, come back slowly but surely. But this is up against the Berserkers, Loops Esports. This is an entirely different beast to tackle. And I'm saying that Dope is going to have to step way outside of their comfort zone if they want a shot at this.
Well, it looks like we're getting off to a start here. Look at Loops pushing so far forward as Dope took a little bit of a sweet time, and they'll get their early lead.
Establish positioning, every man going to his designated spot, but Loops is already on their aggressive side, pushing up so far that they're ready to shoot him out from those positions of comfort already and establish a 2-point lead over Dope Esports.
Look at where Dope's playing. This is exactly where the Panthers actually were playing, just that back corner of the by spawn. And honestly, I think they need to do it that way right now, especially with Loops being this forward. Now, if Loops pushes back, they can't do that anymore. And it worked. It kind of worked. They've made it a 1-point game. Loops still playing aggressively, even with the lead.
Yeah, now it is, you know, while Loops is maintaining that lead, let's give credit where credit is due. Dope is putting up a significant number of the kills on the board and keeping this a very close match. This might be a bit more at each other's throats than we previously expected as Dope ties up and takes the lead over Loops Esports.
I did not see this coming. This is exactly what I didn't think was going to happen.
Oh, man, the underdog is barking right now.
Dope in the lead. They have to play back now. I know it's only by 1 and we still have a lot of time, but there is no way they're going to be pushing forward, and that's why we see them back here, because you just don't play around with Loops. You don't do that.
The intimidation is all too real, and Loops' name and reputation precedes them. Dope Esports is not for a single millisecond underestimating their opponent. They are not trying to be all-out, you know, offense against the kings of offense, you know, at least not while they have this 1-point lead. As slim of a lead as it is, you know, it is a lead, and they're going to hold back and try to use their accountability.
Ooh.
And boy, it's working out as they establish a 3-point lead.
Yep, 3-point
lead.
Oh, 4-point. Jeez. What a great job between Dope and the rest of the squad. I mean, look at this. They are making it a battle right now. Menace even moved up a little bit. He's got an angle, and he's like, never mind. I don't want to do that. I'm going to stay back because I need the team to provide that support. They want to play the odds. You always want to have a teammate next to him that can provide those shots.
Yeah, we see Kevin Summers in the chat saying GG Dope, but Loops is too OP for Dope. And then in retaliation, Julian saying, nah, it's close. Dope is holding on. And boy, Dope is doing more than holding on right now. They are establishing a 6-point lead over Loops Esports, which is a significant lead at this stage.
Wow.
And as I say it, I have cast or cursed them down to a 3-point lead as Loops is not losing momentum here. They are a team that has not lost confidence for even a single second. They are not letting the small point deficit throw them off their tilt here.
Menace just got taken down. This is a 2-point lead now, not much. Oh my god, they are so close to each other. Loop has pushed up so much right now. Look at where, look how far back Dope is playing. At least one of their players was back to their spawn peeking out there. And the shots from the top. Toyko comes in strong, but gets shot from the side. Altap, can he get the kills? Yes, he will, making it an 18-14 lead.
Yeah, this is actually it's working out a lot more in Dope's favor than I was expecting. I was expecting almost exactly this gameplay where Dope is dialing things back, playing things closer to home, playing things a little bit more conservative and reserved, and Loops being the Loops that we all know and love, coming out on the all-out offensive. That is exactly what's happening. But what's turning out to is Loops getting a little bit impulsive here.
Well, I do think Loops needs to be aggressive because they do need to get some kills, right? They can't play passively because Dope is just going to play passively as well, and there would be no change in the score, regardless of what the time is. So I think Loops is just trying to find a way to push, and it looks like they're doing that right now. 3-point difference compared to a 4 just a moment ago.
I see a chat from one of our viewers, Brett Liner, saying, I want Dope to return the aggression too. They need to dominate to win here. And I am going to agree with that and give our boy Brett his flowers here, because I 100% agree. This is not going to be the kind of match that you can just hold on by the hair on your chin. This is a match that you are going to need to dominate the situation because Loops is a dominant team.
I don't know. I don't know about that take. I'm going to disagree. They need to play like this. I mean, it's not like they're playing passively, right? They're playing back and they're doing their best to hold that. I think that's going to be their bread and butter right now. If they try to push forward and try to gun to them, I don't think that'll work.
I agree with that. They're not going to be able to gun to go up that close in confrontation, but what they're doing is by holding back position, they're doing so in a strategic manner that's not altogether conservative. They're pulling frequent rotations, putting themselves out in the open, and frequently moving themselves. So I wouldn't entirely call it reserved all to the max, but I do see why you say it. Dope is hanging back towards their base. That's without argument. But they are, in my opinion, holding onto this by the hair on their chin. If they are able to establish...
Oh, no.
Yeah, see, at no point was this becoming a landslide, or at no point was this a match.
No way. Yeah, definitely not a landslide. That's for sure. Like this, the Dopes needed to hold on, and I think that was going to be the only way they would win this. Play defensively once they had a lead. The lead's gone, so Loops gets one now. I don't wonder. Yep, they're pushing back. They're leaving it. They're like, we got our lead. Later, everyone. You're gonna have to push us now.
I think that Dope needs to play conservatively, but I think at certain points they are going to need to match Loop's aggression head on, or they're just going to get dominated on come the end game. However, this is, to full credit, a much more evenly paced match than I think anybody really expected. Dope Esports showing just why they deserve to be here. And again, guys, we started off with 500 teams, dwindled it down to 32, dwindled it down to 16, down to 8, down to 4, and now we are at our final standoff here. Loops versus Dope Esports, and so no matter what, you can expect that this is going to be a contest, a real contest.
Oh, Loops took an extra kill to make it a 2-point lead. 3 minutes to go. Chief is low on health. Oh, Casper taken down. Couldn't get the lead, or couldn't break through that lead. You said they traded. And Leggy out.
Barely missing that altercation. He almost had it by the hair on his chin, but ultimately it was not deeming so successful. And Loops is now going to establish a 3-point lead. Now, as you said, Loops is going to use this opportunity and dial things back, as we saw in their previous match against, as we saw in their previous match anyway, we saw them do that exactly, just to establish I believe it was a 4-point lead against their previous opponents, and then they dialed things back and just rode that out for the majority of the first match, and then came in and dominated at the end game.
Yeah, this is what Loops has been doing by design, right? There has been no change in their strategy. Once they had the lead, literally by 1 kill, they did the same exact thing against other teams where they just dialed it back, especially teams that were very difficult to handle. They dialed it back and they played defensively like they are right now.
Yeah, and I think, while I've been calling Loops the Berserkers, they are doing so strategically, and they know when to dominate a situation and when to play the slow game, because it's a marathon, not a sprint here, and they are definitely playing the marathon game here. Loops not underestimating their opponent for a single second.
Well, it looks like they were able to break that lead to 2, right? 28-26. Ooh, 3 again.
Yep. Down to a 4-point lead now for Dope. Or, pardon me, for Loops.
Dope will need to figure out something because they can't afford... Honestly, they can't afford to lose match number 1. They need this too. They need a lot. They need a lot in their favor early, whether it's their first match or it was early gaming here. I think they did a great job early game, but they need to find some sort of adaptive strat that can work to take the win here now. Otherwise, it's not looking good.
And time is of the essence, but it seems like Dope is starting to capitalize as they've narrowed it down to just a 2-point lead for Loops. Dope now
tap,
down.
no.
For a brief millisecond, it was a 1-point game. Still just a 2-point difference between these two teams. 40 points remain on the clock, and Dope coming up with another point in their favor. This is absolutely detrimental for Dope. They are going to need to get aggressive and need to
Oh no.
And
Dope was waiting for teammates to come back. Oh, he's able to stay alive in that.
Still
35-32 though.
Loops is able to use that accountability system and retaliate for every kill on them. They have one to return. And as I say that, Dope comes back and reducing it to a 2-point lead, a 1-point lead.
Whoa. 12 seconds.
Can they do
Chief, get the kill. Oh, that's it.
Dope out the window as Loops establish it. Only 4 seconds left remain on the clock as Loops win with a 5-point lead currently.
Team victory.
And that is that.
Well, great job from Loops.
Yeah, great job from Loops, but also great job to Dope Esports, really holding in. And as one of our viewers said, Mommy Mel said in chat, this is what I call a TDM. And boy, I can't really think of too much of a better way to end this event than an all-out bloodbath like that. I mean, both teams were just giving 100% there, and it really showed.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot of that also in the next match too, where Loop will just continue to try to push, get that early lead. Once they get it, they'll push back. For Dope, I thought did a very good job getting that early kill and completely switching mindsets to push back, similar to what Loops wanted to do, but they couldn't do it right away. And Dope had a good lead. I think it was like they had 4-point lead at one point. It was pretty good on the side of Dope. But, chip away. Loops really got in their face. And it made it so difficult for Dope to work cohesively. Even though they were all pretty much close together in that one side near spawn, it didn't matter. And that's the greatness about Loops' aggressive gameplay.
Perhaps this kind of boils down to us being, as casters, we predicted that Dope would need to be an all-out aggressor if they were going to even, establish an early lead over Loops, and they were going to have to ride that for the entirety if they wanted a shot at winning. But what they didn't expect was to face a more conservative Loops than we're used to seeing. I mean, technically, we aren't that unused to it because they did retaliate against Misato's win by dialing things back a little bit. And so Loops has shown that they can play both play styles here in this situation, and it seems Dope was really planning on just the more aggressive side of Loops. And Loops using this opportunity, exactly as you said, I think they are going to move into this match just trying the same tactic out, trying to establish a small lead, not doesn't need to be too significant, 3-4 points, and then they're going to dial things back, hold things closer to base, and try to ride that out and let the clock run down.
Yeah, Julian brought up an excellent point about that. It says Dope showing how you should play from the back, hold angles, and sometimes push out to punish your lurkers. And that's an excellent point. That last part, especially play back when you should play back. And then if you have the ability to kind of catch someone off guard by pushing out just a little bit to get that last person, then push right back or back up in that time period, that's a good thing to do. So maybe we'll see Dope get that early lead again and hopefully hold onto it this time. But as we mentioned, Loops is such a good team. Even if you give them the disadvantage of not having the early lead, they made you pay for it.
Yeah, it's up to us to see now. Can Dope pull that magic rabbit out of?
Oh, look at Loops is already pushing back with a 1-point lead. Oh, they tied it up. Never mind, they can't do the same.
Yeah. Now, I mean, yeah. Under most circumstances, as we had previously thought, that this would be one of those situations where if Loops and Dope tied, that it would be an automatic win for Loops. But that doesn't seem to be the case with the way today is unveloped. It would mean that we would be going to yet another match. So that is going to mean that Loops is going to have to be a little bit more aggressive until they establish that at least a 1-point lead, which they have done so now. So I expect to see them dialing things back just a little bit if they are going to match their playstyle in round 1.
So Dupe's goal right now, since they are down by 1, it's not impossible, but Dope needs to get at least 1 kill. That's really it. I know they're going to need to get at least 2 in order to win this event right now, to at least move on to the next match. But Dope really needs just 1 and not go more than that unless it's obvious that they will get more as far as kills. Because Loops would make you pay for it if you do a full-on onslaught in their own spawn area. So they don't want to be. They would need to be cautious, aggressive but cautious.
Yeah, and it's tactically aggressive is the terminology I like to use for aggressive, but knowing when to dial things back. Aggressive, but from a position of comfort.
Card had a really good spot there. I love that position. Shots firing all around. Leggy gets taken down, and another one down 2, making it a 6-4 lead.
Easily picking him off for cheat. However,
oh no,
down a little bit on health, but he is going to be able to heal up from behind that ramp just fine, and he's going to hold position and just wait for someone to make that same mistake again. And you can't blame him.
Julian's take holds up here. The punish lurkers. You saw one person still there, and you had Loops push in just a little bit, just enough. Went into the warehouse just for a second to get that last kill, and pushed right back to their spawn defensive line here. So this is a good job from Loops. They're playing this systematically. This isn't necessarily the fastest gameplay we've seen from Loops, but it's definitely the right moves if you want to really solidify your first place victory.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think what we're seeing from Dope is a bit of hesitancy, but hesitancy with a reason. They've still got plenty of time left. 7 minutes remain on the clock, and this is not a desperate a difference of point that's so drastic that they need to come out on the all-out offensive against Loops right away. And as we've seen, you know, going on the all-out aggressive against the kings of aggressive does not seem to be a very effective method here. What is an effective method against Loops? Because realistically, aside from establishing an early victory, so far we have not in this event see Loops shown many points of vulnerability at all.
Well, I think Loops, as well as they play aggressively, this position right here is going to be their strongest position. It's strongest position for pretty much every... Wow, what a push. Loops didn't even realize that. And the Mentor gets taken down, making this 11-10. Great job from Dope.
Yeah. Dope.
Oh, no. Got picked off and another picked off.
But still, they've taken that 4-point deficit. Never mind. I was going to say taking that 4-point deficit down to a 2-point.
Yeah, that's the problem right there. They had so many good kills right there, but they stood in the same spot with the damage that they took. And the Loops players that had to come back from spawn, come back to life, just went right back to work, and they took down the enemies.
At that point, if you're going to remain in the same spot, then you can assume that Loops knows exactly where you're going to be. And you do not want to be, at any point, predictable to Loops Esports.
Right. That is certainly something you don't want to be, predictable. Oh, yeah, that's an easy shot against Altaf. He was kind of hoping he was alone there, but there was 2 at that spot. Not a lot of teams did that in the past. The Mentor should be an easier pick-off from Leggy's perspective, but Leggy's not going for it yet.
And Loops really starting to pick on Dope here. Dope starting to show moments of vulnerability. We saw Menace pushing out in the open, Casper pushing out in the open, and look, Cardoza just picking him off from the side.
Yep. Great job from Cardoza. 19 to 13, 19 to 14 now. Good job from Dope, trying to keep this one a ball game as we were getting to the half.
And look, Casper from the position of cover, almost wrecking into Toiko and Cardoza, but not able to do so.
Look how low Altap's health is, but he's up front so much.
And
Casper.
Only losing.
Oh no!
And returning.
Oh, he still got it with his teammates there helping.
He did, but he returned. Okay, actually, in this case, returning to the same location with Leggy there to cover his other side.
It worked out.
It worked out in this particular case. So maybe there is a place where that is acceptable, and it does seem to be
20.
there. But it does seem like it boils down to a portion of luck, because he had to go for a drop shot, and he barely got that take.
Oh my God! Every single time Dope gets close, as we mentioned, they're just sticking around a little too long without the cover that they need, and Loops picks them off. So that's why this game can't be a gunfire against gunfire type situation. It needs to be a little bit more methodically thought out by Dope. As good as they are, this is not going to be the way to go. So they need to be a little bit more tactical on retreating, and they're just not doing that whenever they get something good coming out of it.
And the problem for Dope Esports is when this clock strikes around the 2-minute mark, the pressure is going to really have mounted on them. And if they have not diminished or shortened the gap between themselves and Loops Esports kill-wise, if they haven't shortened that gap, then they are going to be left with one choice and one choice only, and that is to push out on the all-out offensive to try to make some sort of miracle comeback happen. Now, granted, we have seen those miracle comebacks from Dope in their previous opponents' matches, but it didn't ultimately work out for them. So, will it face off better against Dope Esports? I think not.
Wow! Look at the Mentor. The Mentor's going crazy. He just got a nice kill, but he got taken down right after. Your shots, come on! No, Dope needed that one.
Lead for Loops. They are riding it. They are riding this confidence level, and still, at no point do you see them coming out as the all-out, guns-a-blazing berserker tactic that we are used to seeing from these esports. They are not giving Dope even a second of an opportunity to fall for that.
Yeah, either Dope's getting traded, which they cannot afford to do for long, or Loops is taking advantage with an extra kill, and that's why we have a 4-point lead. Oh, he got shot in the back there. I didn't think he was exposed.
Team
And now
victory.
Loops has established themselves.
Nicely
as
done, though, for
winner.
Loops.
And I believe that is game, set, and match. Loops Esports, the winners of the Cinco de Mayo PUBG Mobile Deathmatch event.
It was really impressive. Loops has been fantastic throughout all of these matches, and they had a very, very tough go. I mean, we saw GKS playing against them. We saw Masato's playing against them. We had Baluk playing against them. Some really good teams, and it is by no means a surprise to us that they won this because they are a really great aggressive team. When they need to be passive, they're one of the strongest passive teams too in the TDM format. It was insane.
Who would have thought that they would shine through as a conservative team as well? But they absolutely did. And let's talk about a team that had all eyes on them from the very start. Everyone was, putting a lot of money into the Loops basket here. A lot of people had confidence in Loops taking this. That's got to be, a lot of eyes on you. And Loops never disappointed. And now when they went up against GKS, we were thinking that that was going to be one of the biggest semifinal matches that we were going to be faced with. It really wasn't. Loops dominated the situation, and that seemed to be where they went, dominating the situation all the way up to Dope Esports. However, Dope Esports was able to hold their own, where at no point was it an overall landslide victory. It was a significant enough point lead where I would say that Loops maintained control for the majority of the match. They definitely had a little bit more control over the match than Dope Esports did, but give Dope credit for where credit is due. They were never letting their foot off the pedal, and Loops could feel it. Loops could feel it, and that's why they never went on that all-out aggressive, not that all-out berserker tactic that we're so used to seeing from Loops. And that's why, at the same time, they were able to keep Dope on their toes.
Yeah, I think if Loops felt like they were going to dominate no matter what, they would have just played aggressive, even if they were winning. But because they went to the defensive line back near their spawn point. That just really goes to show how good the rest of the teams were. Dope played very well throughout the games. They had a good mix of both aggressive and passive play as well. They just weren't as good as Loops. And who is? I mean, there's not a lot of teams you can say that can really stand up to what Loops are doing. And it really goes to show why Dope got to this place. I mean, at the first match, they had really good gameplay. They got a really good early lead, I think as much as either 4 or 5, something like that. And then they were able to hold it for a good period of time. Unfortunately, Loops was able to push through that defensive line and eventually get the win, but by a very small margin. So great job from Dope, especially after match number 1. I think they started off strong. Match number 2 obviously wasn't their best game comparatively, but it was still a good game. They kept it close for the most part. They even had the disadvantage in the beginning where they needed to be aggressive, and it kind of was working at times. So many times did we see Dope push in, get a few kills on Loop, which is amazing. I mean, if you think about that in a BR standpoint, you would win a lot of these times then.
Yeah.
But because Loop obviously was able to bring people back into spawn, that switched the whole gameplay out the window.
Yeah. With respawns being a factor here, you can play with a lot more aggression and a lot more confidence, and that is what we saw from Loops up until this, standoff with Dopes, where they played things a little bit more dialed back, a little bit more conservative. But talk about being able to adjust your tactic for the situation. Loops knew that Dope Esports was not going to just sit there and fall for their berserker tactics, and they didn't. But Loops was able to dial things back a bit, play things a little bit closer to home, a little bit slower on the pace, and in doing so, establish a slow but secure lead over Dope Esports. And guys, I just want to say huge shout out to Dope. Congratulations on becoming the winners of the PUBG Mobile Cinco De Mayo Team Deathmatch event. We had a ton of fun casting this. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to get to be a part of this. CJ, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, I mean, you kind of put it perfectly. Congratulations to Loop. That was amazing gameplay. I feel like I've learned a lot based on what these teams did, all these teams did. It kind of led me to understand how the best teams in not only in North America, but in LATAM and Brazil, someone mentioned, play the game. And it was kind of mostly a learning experience.
Yeah. Well, guys, as I said, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. And until next time, I've been your very ever-lovable and adorably cuddly caster, Red Eyes. And this is CJ Livecast. We are clocking out. Have a good one, guys. Have a great night. Have fun. Be safe. And be kind to one another. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.